Another day, another upgrade. I am Gary Muttley, and he is
Len Carmichael, Landmine Studios.
Hey, Len. You
Gary.
planning on going to Louisville anytime soon?
No, definitely not. And I'm definitely not.
Before it all gets burned to the ground.
Well, I'm not going to go there, and I'm definitely not planning to take a nap and have the police knock at my door and just shoot me for no reason. No,
Yeah.
I'm not planning to go there, and it seems as though it's about to go up in flames.
Oh, certainly.
Good.
Oh,
So,
there's a sound. We have a guest.
yes, we have a guest this week,
We have a guest.
and our guest's name is Emily Lindemann, and we would like to welcome her to the show.
Hello.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, where you come from, and, we'll lead into the discussion from there.
So I am a New Jersey transport. I'm originally from the state of Wisconsin. I'm a farmer's daughter. I'm very much like your country girl who became woke, I guess, and said, this is a fucking crazy place, and went to New Jersey of all places, which now I'm like, what was I thinking? And I'm currently a therapist and an addiction counselor, and I'm a mom of 2 kids and a human being of this fucked up nation.
Well, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Hello.
You can talk shit about politics like the rest of us do all the time.
Yeah, dig right in. So, are you planning on heading to Louisville soon? Planning to take a nap there?
Nope,
Get shot
not
at?
all. They do not like women like me. We have brains. We don't vote with our church. We actually don't marry inside of our families. I don't know. Like, I am not trying to go down to the South. Not at all.
Technically, Louisville is not in the South, though.
Close enough.
Well,
I'm
if you're talking about geography,
yeah.
maybe not. But if you're talking about state of mind,
If you're talking about habits, then yes, it's in the South. But technically, if you draw a line on the map, it's almost as high up as New Jersey. It's just a little lower. It's like Maryland. It's not that far.
But it's like the South Midwest. So, like, that's a whole different territory.
Well, you know all about the Midwest.
Oh, yeah. Like, the North Midwest, they're ignorant, but, like, hippie ignorant. Where, like, they like to, like, be farmers and grow their own shit. And then the South, they're just ignorant. Like, so, like, it's 2 different factions in the Midwest. And the 2 don't get along.
I mean, I don't fuck around in the Midwest. I don't fuck around in the South, in the Midwest. I'm like in LA, San Francisco, or somewhere on the northern eastern seaboard kind of guy, and then Toronto. Maybe
Okay.
Chicago. Maybe Chicago, because I feel like it's not as bad there as the rest of the Midwest. But
no,
that's
it's definitely not.
But that's only based on like 5 visits. So, I haven't spent a ton of time in Chicago, but I've never felt uncomfortable there.
But think about, like, you have, like, Chi-Town, which Chi-Town's beautiful. Like, I love being there. I love being on Michigan Street. And if you go 3 blocks past Michigan Street, you get the best Mexican food you've ever had, the best Ethiopian food you've ever had. Like, it's amazing. But don't forget, you go an hour and a half north of that, and you're in Milwaukee, which is a whole different territory, because that is where good old boys live, breed, and die. And so Chicago feels safe, but it's not safe because you're still between the South and the North-South.
The North-South.
It's true.
North-South.
Like, it's true.
I never thought about it as the North-South.
I mean, I always just thought of it as like a big city thing. Like, Chicago's cool, but like some of these other cities are like,
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland, I don't fuck around in Cleveland. I'm in and out. Like, pretty much any city that isn't like Philadelphia, New York City, Chicago, Atlanta-ish. I don't fuck around in Texas at all. Like,
well,
I'm out of there.
Because let's face it, being like New York or Philly people, you go there, they're probably gonna hate you.
No, there's no probably about it. Like, you show up and they're just like,
you
no,
might
we
need a
can
transplant every now and again.
the transplants are all right. And then if like you go to Austin, everybody just doesn't care because they're like they want to be nice. They want to be the nice Texas, even though they're kind of dickheads at the same time. But yeah, like overall, you jump off the plane or you roll into town in your van. They're like, yo, we can smell you from a mile away. You are not from here.
So
I mean, I do have some friends in Texas. What's up to my boy Alex? He and the crew down there around Corpus Christi and all the way down to McAllen, Texas. They treated us very well. I got nothing bad to say about them as people, but as a whole, Texas is rough.
Well, I think a lot of these people that live in those type of areas, like the people that we're cool with, like if we go on tour or something, they'll be the first ones to tell you, like, yeah, it's whack down here.
Yeah.
You know, and then Florida's a whole other thing because Florida is just a bunch of transplants.
You know the Bugs Bunny where he's like sawing states off
Florida off.
Yeah. That's what I need. I need Bugs Bunny to saw Florida right off. Just push it.
Know.
Just let it go.
Just push it right in the Bermuda Triangle. Let it all disappear. I don't need any of it. There's nothing there for me at all. And I never want to. If I ever visit Florida again, it will be too fucking soon.
Yeah, it's like assisted suicide in the nicest way to let Florida go. I'm serious.
Oh, man.
Awful. Like, put them out of their own misery. Like, they're a meme. That's so bad.
Florida man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Florida
exactly.
Man.
Like,
Florida man.
just let it go. R.I.P.
I mean, the time that I've spent in my life in Florida is probably 1 month of my life has been spent there. And I cannot think of one positive thing that has happened in any of that time. If I've spent a whole month somewhere total, I want to at least have enjoyed a piece of it. And I can't think of one thing that was positive. Nothing. It's always...
I lost weight.
It was always
so
too hot.
I lost weight. Like, I was like, I can't eat this shit.
I had some good times in Florida. I met some cool people down in Florida. I have no issues with Florida, but I also wasn't going to the sticks.
I wasn't even in the sticks. I was in like Orlando and like Tallahassee, like in the like normal areas. I didn't get down to Miami. I'm assuming if I had gone to Miami, I would have had more fun because it just seems like that's where all the fun in Florida actually happens. But I'm willing to sacrifice that fucking fun to get rid of that entire state.
It wasn't that much fun.
Look at the names, though. Like Tallahassee, Orlando. Like, you just knew what you were getting into when you named these cities. Like, come on now. Like, if that is not like cousin marriage, I don't know what is. I said it. Done.
Cousin marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, that's one thing I can't
strong
support.
views.
Yeah, like why what would drive someone to want to date or marry their cousin? I don't get it.
Being from the South.
Like what goes through your mind where you're just like, you know what? Cousin Jimmy looks perfectly good, perfectly fine today. I think that's the one today.
You know what goes through their mind? Trump, 2020.
Yo, did you see the meme of the dude driving around in the Trump truck and like the whole entire truck is just like Trumped out?
Oh, I've seen a bunch of those. I've seen like one or two in person.
In person?
In person.
Yo, what are these people thinking?
Got me.
What's wrong with their lives?
Got me. By the way, speaking of cousins, and I'm trying to confirm this, I believe at one point Rudy Giuliani was married to his second cousin.
Oh God, why would that surprise me?
It shouldn't. It's 2020. It's like all bets are off. Like any news is probably true. Fuck it.
Yes, from 1968. They separated in 1975, and then They annulled the marriage in 1983, reportedly because Giuliani had discovered that the two of them were second cousins. Like, you just discovered that?
You guys didn't have... Wait. All right, so you're getting married, and you're like...
You didn't have a wedding?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, and you invited your uncle, and she's like, oh, well, that's my uncle.
Like, did you catch a little bit of overlap in there?
That everybody that showed up to the wedding knew each other from both sides, and they were like,
well, hey, it'll be cheaper that way.
Oh, God.
True.
But yeah, that's totally true. Straight from Wikipedia, that they were second cousins.
That's ridiculous.
I'm not shocked, though. I mean, like, look at how Trump talks about his own daughter, though. He's just like, oh Ivanka. Like, it's so creepy. Like, I'm adult enough to say, like, if I see, like, I don't know, like, somebody and I'm like, oh, they're a good-looking person. Like, if they're a family member, I'm like, oh, they're, like, good-looking. Like, you should date them. But, like, he talks about them in such a sexual way. It's like, ew, that's, like, so weird. So Rudy Giuliani banging his second cousin, none of us should be shocked. We should be like, yep, this is par for the course at this point.
I know one other person who talks about his daughter like that. You know who that is, right, Len?
Hulk Hogan?
Yep. Scumbag.
Yeah, well, Hulk Hogan is a full-on scumbag. Like, literally, you know, as a kid, I watched wrestling. And before I realized that Hulk Hogan was a scumbag, I didn't really hate him. I didn't, because I didn't have a reason to hate him. I didn't love him. I wasn't, like, running around, like, pretending to be Hulk Hogan. But as I got older and I could see all the trash just surrounding him, it just continued to build. And I live in a state of fuck Hulk Hogan at all times.
I hated him when I was a kid just because it's like prayers, vitamins, fuck that shit. And you know he's full of shit. And of course it came out.
Vitamins.
You know, Flintstone vitamins are the best vitamins that, like, I wouldn't take them now just because, like, I wouldn't. You probably do.
I do.
I hated him back then. I knew that was some bullshit. And then, of course, it came out that it was bullshit.
See, my problem with him was the war he had with Paul Orndorff, because I was all about Mr. Wonderful. So I had to just sever all ties with him. That Monday night, I mean, I think it was like Saturday night main event when he turned on him. Done.
Yep. But even when I was a kid, I was down with the heels anyway. I was all about Roddy Piper. I was all about Darth Vader. I was all about.
I have a Darth Vader tattoo. Yeah. I've always been about Darth Vader.
Yeah. Even later on, Darth Maul, even though they fucked him up.
Well, they ruined that whole situation.
Well, they've kind of, in other media, they've kind of brought him back.
Okay. So
it's not a total waste, but still irritating. But
Emily, you watch Star Wars?
I'm all right with it.
I'm all right with it. That's a no. Just say no.
That's a no.
Okay, no.
I'm fine with a no. Just say no.
I like the 80s Star Wars because I'm an 80s kid. Like, I love anything 80s. And I like the newer Star Wars because they're entertaining and there's a storyline. The middle ground, I'm out. I don't care.
When you say the middle ground, you're talking like the three ones that came out like late 90s.
Phantom Menace and shit. Like, I don't care. Like, that's ridiculous to me. And so, like, I don't watch any of that stuff, and I don't, like, get that much into it. Like, I like the classic 80s. I mean, not that isn't classic, but, like, I like the classic chick 80s. Like, I'll just say it. I'll be, like, a total, like, stereotype. Like, you give me Adventures in Babysitting or, like, 16 Candles, and I'm all in. But I can enjoy a good Star Wars. But I won't, like, geek out to it.
You're not crazy with it.
Exactly.
Like we are.
Yeah, I mean, I have a mild obsession. Gary has an extreme obsession.
Severe obsession.
I get it. I think it's so common for, like, guys in our generation to have that. But for me, like, girls in our generation, it was very much like the Molly Ringwald, kind of like Elizabeth Shue. That was, like, the game.
So
we'll just do a whole episode about the Breakfast Club. How about that?
I'm 100%. Let's just do this whole episode on the Breakfast Club.
I'm in.
I
do love that movie.
But I do want to finish something.
Sporto.
I do want to finish on something before we get too far away from the fuck Trump and like that whole thing, because I mean we've set up a number of things just to follow up on, but did you see that Cindy McCain endorsed Joe Biden today?
I just got that right before we came on here.
I mean,
I'm not the least bit surprised.
0 bit surprised.
Yeah. Trump
is out here just talking shit on her husband nonstop for years at this point.
100%.
Like, I can't believe she didn't come out 4 years ago and endorse Hillary, but that's a whole different story. Right. It's still significant that you see someone from the Republican Party that isn't typically out in the public light at this point, basically middle fingering Trump. And
well, because they're all a bunch of bootlickers just lining up.
Right.
Like, he's our guy. Fuck you.
But you know what? I don't even think it's necessarily just that. I think like the tempered people like Cindy McCain coming out, that's a big thing because she didn't really make it known before. But Mitt Romney came out a couple of weeks ago supporting Biden, and now he's supporting Trump's pick. So it's this flip-flopping that it gets people where it's like if a tempered person who isn't vocal says something, then there has more like weight to it rather than like Romney, who's like, fuck you at this point. Like, go back to Utah and marry your cousin, you fuck, you know, like, I mean, seriously. Like, you have 0 balls against something, and, like, you know what's right. That's the thing that's so frustrating right now. It's like, you know what's right. You know what's happening. You can see it. But you really, like, everything you're doing says, I don't care.
But that's why I hate the whole two-party system, because instead of making decisions based on morality or logic, they're just doing whatever they want to do just to back their people. And it doesn't
Absolutely.
matter if it's complete hypocrisy. They don't give a shit, because how many of these people, when Obama was president, was like, oh, no, we should wait until after the election, and now all of a sudden...
They're like, no.
Lindsey Graham was like, you know, use my words against me. And it's like, now, okay, yeah, we're going to use your words against you, but not that even matters.
It doesn't matter at all.
What does it do?
Nothing matters anymore. I mean, like, the whole Lady G scandal came out, and then you have, like, the Woodward tape, and you have all this. Nothing matters, because at this point in time, debates are pointless. Everybody has made up their mind.
People have already started voting.
Exactly. So, to me, it's like, what's done is done, and we are just despicable, or we're good people who have hope in a better society. Like, there's 2 factions. Nobody lies in the middle anymore. The middle is gone.
No.
We have exactly 6 weeks from about this time till they're going to announce or potentially announce who has won.
Well, to be honest, it probably won't happen
It probably won't happen that night. But
I know some state, I forget what state it was, passed something that they can count the votes up to 6 days later.
Oh.
And if other states start doing that...
You mean just screw everybody over? Like,
because listen, nobody gives a shit. Politicians don't give a shit. Judges don't give a shit. Everybody is just convinced that they want to make this thing an absolute fucking shit show.
Yep.
So
make it or keep it. I mean, like, it is at this point. Like, it's done.
So let me ask both of you this question. And I've posed it before in a few other episodes, but do you think that we're already at civil war, but it's so different than what we expect a civil war to be that we haven't actually recognized it as such yet?
Absolutely.
It was Michigan, by the way.
Michigan's the one that
passed that law.
Okay.
I think we are totally at a civil war, but we did not, and we thought it would just like ignite and it would be this all-out chaos, but we did not see the slow simmer that is now a full-on boil that has happened. Like what's happening in Louisville with them barricading the streets before any grand jury decision has come down. And let me tell you, like, I was a grand jury forewoman for Middlesex County in New Jersey, and like those decisions are made that day. There's not a continuance of cases that happen because, at least in when I was in it for 18 fucking weeks out here, like, you get through it that day. So the fact that they're delaying this, I'm skeptical that something's going to go down, and the fact that they're barricading it says that they know that it's going to happen. Why that's important to this election is, like, there's no more fair anymore. Like, it's gone, people. Like, it is. Hopefully your side is the more powerful, but, like, that's what it's coming down to.
See, I'm going to have a side argument to that statement. Just that statement alone. Fair never existed depending on which side of it you were on. Because
Absolutely.
What you're saying, and I think what you mean, is that white people finally are seeing that fair never existed for certain people
100%.
in America. That's 100%. What I'm hearing.
George Floyd's death was very pivotal in the white community because all of us saw Rodney King, who are at least in our generation, all of us saw, police brutality happening, but we would go about our days and we would just live our lives. Coronavirus stopped our lives. It stopped our days, and it made us reliant on media. So when the George Floyd case came out, there was no ability to hide from this. It was in your face. You had to see this, and you had to acknowledge this. So it's very different now, where, like, there's much more of, like, awareness that's happened, where you're like, okay, so that fair is out, but can we at least have justice? Can we have, like, something that makes us feel good here? And it's not there.
There is no justice.
I don't disagree with you, but the one factor also in that, besides being cooped up with the pandemic, is also just the technology now. Mm-hmm. Everybody's got a phone. There's cameras everywhere, because how many different angles of the whole George Floyd thing did they have?
I saw 6 different angles.
Right. So that's a part of it too, because it's one thing if something happens, it's another thing if you're able to see it up close and see it, you see the lead in, you see the aftermath, you basically watch the whole incident if you want to. And
I agree.
Go ahead.
I'm going to challenge that, though. How many photos have you seen of Emmett Till?
I mean, I've seen a number of them, and I started seeing them as a child, and that was one of the pivotal points of my understanding of where I stood in the world. Media
has always been there. We've all seen pictures of Medgar Evans. We've all seen pictures of Malcolm X. We've all seen pictures of Martin Luther King. We've all seen pictures of Rodney King after what happened. So media has always been here, but there was this break from our everyday lives where we're like, okay, like, I don't have to read the newspaper. I'm just going to go about my day and I can spin this. George Floyd was in your face. It's on Facebook. Right. It's on your, news. You can't hide from it. So I can say that media made it more accessible, but I think it forced us to see what was always there.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely forced people to see what was always there, but it's also, when people see a still photo or something, they can kind of blow it off like, oh, somebody faked the photo, this, that. Here you are watching a good 10 minutes. I forget how long some of those videos were, but here you are watching the entire incident up close and from multiple angles. It's like, it's really hard to deny it at that point. Like, you're seeing, it's a lot harder to argue the point. You know what I mean? And it's
absolutely.
Just, but that's, Len and I have talked about this a million times, just the idea that a lot of these guys just don't acknowledge the fact that cameras are everywhere, and that's the way it is.
I think they don't care. Like, I mean, look what happened with Rodney King. Like, you had the videos, right. You had the riots, and people were like, meh. And then,
well, they say, hey, well, he was on crack or whatever, and he was belligerent. He deserved it. Like, there's always a spin.
Martin.
There's always a spin towards the victim instead of towards the aggressor.
And, like, Trayvon Martin, he was wearing a hoodie and he shouldn't have been out getting Skittles. What? Like, you look at George Floyd, he had a past record 10 years ago. Who the fuck cares? But this is the narrative in which our society that we have built things on, where white people are having a hard time dealing with the virus or they're struggling with mental illness, whereas you have people of, minority status who are very much like, oh, well, they're thugs, they're criminals, they are
Right.
this, that, and the third. So it's media. I think we can only blame them so much, but we have to look into that deep-rooted systemic value that we have. I mean, how many people have seen nightly news stories about the women who are getting hysterectomies in the ICE facilities in Georgia? Many people don't know about that. Go back to the Tuskegee era when we were doing, tons of mass sterilizations. And then even
Right.
before the Olmstead Act happened with mental health, people were sterilizing people who were committed. So we don't care unless it hits our front porch until it hits our home. And that's where George Floyd was very different, where he hit our doorsteps. Our kids were seeing it, our loved ones were seeing it, our communities were seeing it. And so the awareness was different, if that makes sense.
Yo, side note, all the people that I saw doing the quote unquote George Floyd challenge, I want hands with every single one of them.
Agreed. Please.
I don't care if you're 6'5" and yoked to the roof. I want to shoot the fair one, because it's just bullshit.
Agreed.
And how many of those people were cops?
Probably all of them.
That was
or cops' kids.
Yeah, but there were some that were just blatantly doing it, and it's out there that they're cops and they just don't give a fuck.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Because going back to what we were talking about before, they don't care, because with a lot of them, the system is going to end up taking care of it for them.
Yeah, they're just...
And that's why they don't
Absolutely.
give a shit. And that's where the big problem is. Because look at the Louisville thing right now. Because what happened? These dudes really fucked up, but it's okay because the system is probably going to cover it for them. And that's why people are setting shit on fire.
I mean, all right. You send out a $12 million settlement, so you'd rather pay $12 million than put the people who actually committed the crime in jail. You'd rather take that out of taxpayer money and pay the family because you know they did wrong, but you don't want to punish them.
See, but being short-sighted like government people often are, they think that settlement is just going to make the whole thing go away.
That's not how that's
you
not how
and I,
works.
we live in the real world and we know that that's not going to happen that way.
It
But
makes that
in their
family
minds,
go away.
I guarantee you they're thinking, oh, well, if we settle it, it'll go away. People will forget about it. No.
I feel like they have
deeper
Saul Goodman in there. After watching Paul Saul for the last couple months, or couple weeks, I feel like that's who they must have as their lawyer. He's just like, let's just pay him and get rid of him.
But it's deeper than that. If you think about okay, I'm a huge Green Bay Packers fan. Anybody who knows me, I am die-hard green and gold. I've been raised to be that way. I have it tattooed on me. This is what I do. However, let's be honest. The NFL is a slavery-based institution. And it's shut up, take your fucking paycheck, and keep quiet. Do what we want you to do. And Colin Kaepernick, I'm sorry, he was a mediocre quarterback. I'm not even dogging him as a person. I'm saying this straight up, based on, me being an NFL fan. But he deserves so much respect for holding his fucking ground. But they don't give a shit because they said, take your paycheck. We gave you your penance. Be quiet. They're doing the same thing with Breonna Taylor's family, Trayvon Martin, Elia in Colorado. They're doing all of that with them because it's not about the be quiet. It's more of the shut up and take what we give you because this is what you're worth.
Well, it's funny you say that because we discussed it a little bit before. I don't give the slightest shit about football. I am not a football guy. I've watched it. I know the rules, but I'm just not into it. Don't follow it at all. But when the NFL issued that apology,
we talked about that.
I said at night, because we did a podcast that night, and I said to Len, and listen, I've heard that he was a mediocre player. I don't know because I don't follow, but I said, they issued that apology. They didn't even mention him. So he should just be out in the press saying, you guys can eat my entire ass because I was right and fuck you.
100%.
Yeah.
Like, Roger Goodell of the NFL, fuck him. Like, now you want to pretend that you have it together and you understand this and you know it's a big issue. When Colin Kaepernick was just saying, let me take a knee, let me draw attention to something that matters to me, and you turned your back on them, what a fucking bitch-made asshole. Like, seriously, like, this is what you do to somebody who just wants to use their platform for good. I have nothing for Roger Goodell. Like, nothing.
And it was some sucker bullshit that he went and put that whole apology out there and never once mentioned Kaepernick. Not once.
Absolutely. Because
that dude was the one leading the charge with that whole thing. And it's like, now, okay, you finally got wise to it, or you're putting it out there that, finally you sympathize with it. But, like, that's the dude that you dissed, and you should humble up and come clean on the dude.
But it's not even that he
sympathizes. Never would.
It's that it's trendy. I mean, like, let's be honest. Like, so when women were trying to break into the NFL, what did the Steelers do? I think it was the Steelers. They hired, like, a defensive line woman who, is, I think it was the Steelers. It could be another team. I always confuse them. But anyways, like, they hired a woman who's got the qualifications. I'm all for it. But those moves never happen until, like, society said, hey, we're kind of interested in them. So this thing with, Black Lives Matter, it's like, no, Roger Goodell, you don't give a shit. You don't get it. You don't understand it. And you don't care. This is just trendy for you right now to jump onto this. And to me, it was so shallow.
He has no, like, the reason why most of these people don't care is that they have the money to not care. Absolutely. Like, they just roll, it almost, I think, in some cases, has nothing to do even with race. It literally is, you're my subjected human, and you're going to do the things that I say that you have to do, and it really doesn't matter who you are. But then on top of that, if you are going out on a limb and saying something racial that may impact their money, they're immediately going to try and strike back at you.
Of course.
Absolutely.
So.
And I get what you're saying about, sports teams in general jumping on things when they get trendy. Well, and by the way, I looked it up. The only female that ever attempted to join the NFL was back in 2013.
Are you talking about as a coach, or are you talking about as a player?
As a player.
Okay.
And according to Wikipedia here, Lauren Silberman received a tryout at a scouting combine in 2013. She had never played the game before and botched her tryout, leading observers to assume the tryout was just a publicity stunt.
I think she was a coach. Like, I think it was the 49ers. There was commercials during the Super Bowl for her. I don't remember her name, but she was talking about, like, the role they had. And, like, so I'm not saying she was trying to be a player, but thank you for fact checking it, because, like, I forget specifics. But to me, it's like that didn't happen until things became trendy. And so much like Black Lives Matter or anything to do with fucking unity, we were like, oh, well, we'll wait until this becomes trendy, and here we are. And it's like,
well,
Jesus Christ.
The same thing happened with gay players, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Where, the guy is an average football player, but because he's gay, suddenly, some team signs him.
100%.
I forget who the kid was years ago. They played college, and then they all jumped to sign him, even though he wasn't that good, and eventually he just failed out of the whole thing anyway.
He played for the Dolphins. I don't remember his name, but I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up.
So as of December 6th, 2019, there were 10 female coaches in the NFL at that point. The first one is a woman named Jen Welter, and she was a coach with the Arizona Cardinals.
Okay.
So just a little backwards fact checking. And technically,
I appreciate that.
No, it's not, I like to know. I didn't even know this. I didn't know there was even one female coach in the NFL because I don't fucking watch football. So like I had no clue. So I just wanted to know for myself. Now,
no, I actually like it because like that's been the greatest thing about the presidential town halls, I guess you can call them, is like the instant fact checking. I'm like, let's do it. Like, show me what's up.
Show me the Carfax.
Yes. Like, I wonder if Trump is telling the truth and something is egregious. Okay, I want to know about it because I'm not beyond reproach to say that this is the facts and this is what's happening. But when I hear nothing but egregious lies, especially in my arena, mental health and addiction, then I'm like, no, that's fucked up and bullshit. And then it makes it everything else that you're saying fucked up and bullshit. So I like being fact checked. I like knowing what's the real truth because it's also, skewed right now.
I mean, Trump lives in fucked up bullshit. I mean, that's literally his entire territory.
I mean, listen, New York is in anarchy right now.
Yo, I saw.
I can see the bombs outside my window.
Yeah, I saw a guy post a video. Somebody posted a video.
Dodging gunshots every now and again. Otherwise, it's fine.
This guy posted a video driving around Portland and just like seeing people walking on the street. He's like, "Look, an anarchist! Look, this building."
I saw that.
I was dying watching that video.
Look at these people. They're eating.
Look, that building is on fire, and it was just
Look
painted.
At those savages.
Yeah,
these savages are eating in the street.
There's like one very small section of Portland where people are actually protesting, and then the protesters are being engaged in a way that would cause them to fight back. Like, do you expect everybody that is protesting and you're out there acting like an asshole to just allow you to act like an asshole because you don't think they should be out there protesting? No, human beings fight back. Like, you push them too far, they're gonna fight back.
100%. Have you ever been to Portland? Portland is like the bougiest homeless place in the entire world. Like, I don't think that like the Republicans are doing themselves any good by like using Portland as an example. It's like, I've been to Portland. I had a person in designer jeans and a designer top ask me for my leftovers. I'm like, fuck you with your $80 jeans. Like, go buy your own fucking food. Like, no. So, like, when they like, oh, it's all anarchists in Portland, I'm like, ew, no, that's not true. It's all designer kids who want to be homeless because it's fucking cool and they're influencers. Like,
and it barely rains there, so they can get away with it.
Thank you. Yes, I said it. Influencers.
So I have been to Portland.
I hate them.
Once. I went to Portland once, and I did not like anything about it. I could not get out of there fast enough. If anybody's listening from Portland, sorry. I not personal. I just didn't feel comfortable there.
Portland, and I'm going to say it, you can like think this is the worst episode ever. Sorry, guys. But Portland and Baltimore are bullshit. Bullshit. They're awful cities.
What's wrong with Baltimore?
Baltimore? Whoa,
Okay.
I can't sign on to this one.
Okay, no. Like, the cops are dicks. You have a lot of corruption there. And then you have, like, a lot of divisiveness. I'm not saying any more than anyone else, but, like, what I see with Baltimore is much like Asbury Park, where you have this super defined line of bougie sections versus not so bougie sections. And there's a lot of fighting. And the city, I think, did this on purpose to lock people up, to criminalize like people who just wanted to fucking live in their neighborhoods. And I think Baltimore is a bunch of bullshit. Like, I'm a John Walters fan. I am very much like, I want to like Baltimore, but when I've been there, I'm like, I can't get down with this. This is some messed up shit.
See, but you just explained why I like Baltimore. Cops are
I
dicks.
can't do it.
Check. You know, bougie sections and not bougie sections. Check. A lot of tension, a lot of mess. Check. It's just like home for me.
I can't. It's just like it's so it's grimy in the best ways. Like it's like Big Pun's song. Like it's what's the name? Big Pun's famous song. Help me out, guys.
Not a player? No.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like got this like grimy ass rap to it, but this like really classy, nice hook. That's Baltimore. But like they don't divide it well. Like it's like you cross one block into the wrong area and you are fucked. That I can't get down with. I just like that's what gets me about Baltimore. It's like I cannot do this.
See, my favorite thing about Baltimore is that right around the corner from the Inner Harbor, there's a police substation that's legitimately right across the street from the strip club row. And it's like, I know exactly where all the police officers are at all times. They're hanging out at the strip clubs. They're not even handling anything else other than themselves and the strippers. You can get away with almost anything in Baltimore half the time that you're there.
That is true. I've seen it.
I've witnessed a lot of things in Baltimore. I will not name any names.
No, definitely no names. You know who you are.
Yeah.
I'm friends with a lot of you.
We all know who you are.
I have good memories in Baltimore, but I'm still not a Baltimore fan. Sorry, Baltimore.
Oh, man.
I hate everybody equally, in all honesty, so.
And that's without doing cocaine.
It's true. Nobody wants me on cocaine. This is me el natural. And
I was just saying, I had a lot of fun down there, and that's without the cocaine. If I did cocaine...
You might still be down there in a box.
Who knows? I might still be running laps around the block.
So did you guys see that Trump like hit a good genes statement at that rally in Minnesota?
You know who's got the genes?
Us Midwestern people.
I don't think that's what he was getting at.
It was. It's okay. But no, but like some people see it but you know what? He's playing into his target audience. Like I can't be shocked because these are people that I know. And it's so sad, but it's so true out there.
So where exactly are you from?
Okay, so I'm actually from the northernmost town in the state of Wisconsin. It's cornucopia, but my father lives in Port Wing, which is about like 12 miles south of that, I guess. And we live right on Lake Superior. So if you've ever heard the Legend of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot, that's kind of the area in which I live in. And if you haven't, I'm a total loser, and I'm sorry I warned you ahead of time tonight. So I am from a town of 165 people.
That's a small town.
Yeah. My graduating class from high school was 48 people. And my brother, who graduated 3 years younger than me, was 23.
So what I'll say is that my graduating class was like 242 people, and I thought that was small considering like all the other schools around my town had much larger graduating classes than I did, and you had 168 people in your entire town. So I guess it really wasn't that bad for me.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I had a good 400 probably. So you lived in Wisconsin, which is pretty much, you might as well have been in Canada.
Yeah.
Like,
don't you know?
Do you hit the A's? Did you drop any A's?
I do actually. So you'll hear it tonight because I'm a little drunk, and when I'm drunk, I tend to drop the A's. But definitely when I say my vowels, where it's like A-E-I-O-U. Like you can hear, because like it's ingrained in you. Like it's how you grow up. Like you hear your friends say it. And so when my mom comes out to visit, I'm always like, oh, I know. And my husband always goes like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm like, yeah, it's ingrained in us. This is who we are. Like I watch Letterkenny on Hulu, which is amazing, and it captures so much of like that middle world where like they're in Canada, but like not far from where I grew up, and it's very much like, you know, this, oh, I know, you friggin' betcha, eh? And it's a totally different environment, like Fargo on FX. Yeah, I'm saying it now. I can't help it.
No.
Sorry.
What I'm saying is, if I try to do that accent, I just sound like an asshole. But you just pull it off because it's normal for you.
Yeah.
So how did you break having that accent living in New Jersey? Because you know that when people would talk to you, they would look at you like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with this girl?
They would hate me for it, like, or they would love me. I'd become like a novelty. So I moved out to New Jersey when I was 21. Yeah. And I started working at the Menlo Park Diner. Best rice pudding in the world, let me just tell you.
Biggest asshole owner in the world.
Truth on that one. And so I used to work the 5 p.m. to 3 a.m. shift, where Len and I became friends, actually.
Yes.
And I had to break it because people became like, where are you from? Oh, you're too nice to be from New Jersey. And that's actually I swear I'd get that all the time. They're like, you're way too nice to be from New Jersey. But I became a novelty where I would say things a certain way and people would be like, and so I was very conscious about it. And I would train myself to not have it. But when I'm drinking, I'm very much just me. So I tend to be very much like, you just hear how I would normally say things.
So, you know, you're putting on a front most of the time, is what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing. You're fronting.
Absolutely, because, like, I am fronting, damn it. Like, I'm such a poser. I'm sorry. Like, but, like, yeah, like, I think because it makes you easier to talk to with people, and people, I think, tend to take you seriously. Like, I know in what I do, I try to be as accepting as possible, but I do have a bias. Like, if somebody talks to me with a strong Southern accent, I can't take them seriously. And there's no shade there. It's 100% true. Like, if you're just like, oh, you got cancer, I'm like, what? Like, are you telling me a joke, Jeff Foxworthy? Like, I don't get it. And, like, that's how I feel. And so for me, I felt the same way with my Midwestern accent, where I was very much like, oh, okay, I know. And that's how I want to say it. But, like, I train myself to be very cognizant of how I say it.
So, Gary.
Long-winded answer, sorry.
When I was in Breath of Silence.
Yes.
And we were practicing in Patterson, I drove past the Menlo Park Diner 3 times a week. And it was the, like, kind of the midpoint for me to, like, get home. Right. And usually I was fat and I was hungry. So I would stop in there. And one day I stopped in there and this one is in there slinging food.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
And, you know, we got to talking and we've been friends for, I don't know, like 15-ish years at this point. So
I want to say almost 16 years. Like, you've known me pre-kids, post-kids, pre-marriage, post-marriage. Like, you know me all different stages. And so I think we've been friends for like, I don't know. Like,
yeah, for 15, 16
years. Yeah.
And, yeah, like, I'm learning a lot of information today that I didn't know before, which is interesting.
I'm just thinking that after we're done with this, I want to go watch Strange Brew.
No, that's such a good movie, though.
Oh, it's a classic. Absolute classic.
Slapshot.
Or Slapshot. Slapshot's good, too.
It really is.
The actual movie Fargo, as was mentioned earlier, as well. I don't really fuck with the TV show, though. I hear it's good.
I've been told that it's good.
It's amazing.
I was actually having a conversation about this after band practice the other night. Everybody tells me that it's good and that I should watch it, so I may eventually just finally take the plunge on it.
It's
So is
so
it-
good.
And does it
What?
require having to go and watch it from the start, or can I just
Not at
start
all.
anywhere?
You can start anywhere. I mean, if you start from the beginning, first of all, the beginning season is brilliant. It's so much better actually than the movie, I have to say. And
Really?
oh yeah,
Because I love the movie.
it's a mind fuck, so much like the movie, but like it's done and it's just brilliant. But as you watch them, they kind of start to tie in, the characters tie in, the stories tie in, so much like kind of like American Horror Story-ish, like in Walking Dead, Fear the Walking Dead, storylines are tying in. But you could really jump in anywhere. I'm excited for the newest season because Chris Rock is on there. And he's kind of playing like a chalky white character.
Yeah, I
which if
saw the
anybody watched-
commercials and I was like, what is this?
I'm so excited. Like Boardwalk
But-
Empire was one of my favorite shows. And so like if we have a chalky white kind of character, I'm like in.
Yeah, but all right, like in reality, how many black people are in Fargo? Like, and how many of them would be as good an actor as Chris Rock?
Well, now I'm gonna find out. So there's that. Like
I mean, but hasn't that been the problem with a bunch of these issues where we've had police stuff happen? It's like whatever town, and then there's black people there.
Right, like, come on. There definitely aren't that many fucking black people there. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
well, there's probably not, but I also don't think it's just the small town mentality. I think it's like the mentality of the world in general, where there's a fear of minority status, and I think it goes back so much longer than right now. I mean, obviously, but you know, it's not just small town America. I mean, George Floyd did not die in Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah, but it's, you know, I mean, we've always said that a lot of this is just people fear what they don't understand or don't experience. So, like, you've got all these people that have never seen a black person before, or never seen a gay person before, and that's why they hate them. And now, you know, that goes for city people too. Like
I'm gonna argue that most of the people that hate gay people, they're just mad because they're actually gay.
Well, there's certainly a case for that, and that's been proven by how many politicians who sign off on anti-gay legislation and then are caught, you know, in bathroom stalls doing shit.
Tapping their foot under the bathroom stall.
Yeah, exactly. Like, come on. You know,
It's
like
insane.
there's nothing wrong with it, but like, if you want to be all anti, and then here it is where you're getting caught in a hotel room with like, you know, a
10 pounds.
22-year-old male hooker.
10 pounds of blow and then 3 male hookers.
Exactly.
Right.
And you're like, oh, no, that wasn't what was really going on here.
Yeah, of course. They try to explain it off. It's like, come on now.
There's no
They were
explanation on
doing
that.
a sermon.
Yes.
They were doing
you were
a sermon.
doing
Okay.
conversion therapy.
Oh,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, in an hourly hotel room. Certainly.
Who hasn't been there? Come on.
Ridiculous. People are fucking ridiculous. That's what it's come down to.
But that's always the way. They're either they hate what they don't know or don't understand, or they hate what they really are deep down inside. So
Yo, did you guys see that we almost got what we needed? Mike Pence's plane was hit by a bird in flight. And
Oh,
it
no, I
almost
didn't
took
see
it
that.
down. Almost took it down.
Like, come on.
Like, come on.
Don't
Like,
2020 from redeeming yourself.
why wasn't it like just an endless stream of birds? I mean, aren't they drones anyway?
You're right.
That's what QAnon says.
my
listen,
God.
what would they say?
How frightening.
They'd probably say it was Democrats throwing birds at the plane.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I would say, hey, it's God's work.
It's God's work. How much of a mental health issue is it that these people believe that the shit on QAnon is reality? Because, like, have these people experienced a break from what we would all consider normalcy, and they're somewhere else, and they need someone like you to kind of pull them back into like the truth, or like what the fuck is going on here?
I, you know what? I don't even know some days, because like I think the people that are on the fringe are willing to be accepted to be pulled back. And like, here's the thing. In my profession, in my tenure in my career, I have dealt with people who are profoundly psychotic, where they're seeing and hearing things that are not real, that they are operating and talking on a plane that does not exist. In my mind, that's the thing. It's like, I can't tell you that they aren't talking to God. I don't know, because I'm only human. But I give it that perspective. So with QAnon, I give it the same thing, where it's like, I can't say that that's not real, but I can say that I'm not going to subscribe to that. Because I feel like I'm educated, where there's so many people that are not, and they are fearful, and they are scared, and they are buying into this, that they can't separate this. Like, I'm not going to buy into this, but I'm not going to rule it out, right? And again, you go into that divisiveness. You're on one side or the other. So people like me, who it's like, then you're on the not side. And it's like, I don't know. I don't fucking know what's happening. Like, every politician is disgusting. Like, there you go. But it's a huge mental health issue, because people are just insane right now over it.
Yeah, because just I don't know. I see some of these QAnon conspiracies and just random other conspiracies in general that people will repost, and I like to think that my ability to be picky about friends, and I'm not talking about like random people that have added me on the internet, but actual friends of mine that have subscribed to some of these things, or will willfully promote conspiracy theories that really have no basis in truth. And I'm not talking about people that are talking about 9/11 truths around, like, you know, buildings falling that weren't hit and have no reason to have crumbled other than explosion. Like, I get those conspiracies because there's other things at play, but just some of the shit that comes up on like QAnon, etc., that I see, I just have a hard time understanding how that becomes someone's reality. Because
okay. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I live in a space where it's like I'm really focused on finding out what the truth is one way or the other.
But you're not designed to know it. And that's what you have to always remember. Like, okay, so it's been how many years since JFK was assassinated? We have ideas, we have theories, we don't have proof that anything happened, because you're not designed to know. So do you really think Karen in St. Louis, Missouri, who Googled some shit about QAnon and fucking linked some shit, really has the answers? No, because you're not supposed to know. And so I think that, like, there's this comfortably uncomfortable zone that we have to get in as people, where it's like, you're not going to know, but what resonates with you as a human in terms of your moral values and structures, that's what defines you. Outside of that, I don't know what to tell you. But
can I just point out that in the past couple of years, conspiracy theories have really taken a wild fucking turn.
oh, God.
because I'm a guy that reads a lot about conspiracy theories. Like, I've got DVDs and books about the Kennedy assassination. I got a lot of stuff about UFOs. I don't necessarily believe in all of that stuff, but I read about it and I learn about it, and I have my own opinions on a lot of it. But like, we've gone way past like UFOs and reptilians and, like, you know, blowing up the Trade Center. We've gone way past that into this QAnon shit, which is fucking out there.
Isn't it crazy that QAnon is such a thing? But like, there is like videos and pictures and flight logs that links like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump to Pedophile Island. But they're like, no, it's this underground agency. What is underground about this? So you have flight logs. You have like everything you need. Like, there's nothing underground, folks. It's just like, here it is.
Yeah, I mean, all that. Listen, Bigfoot is tame now.
A big
Right.
Compared to all this
Bigfoot
shit.
could show up tomorrow and no one would bat a
Nobody would
fucking
care.
eyelash. They'd be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, well, yeah, we kind of knew you were here anyway, so whatever. What's up?"
No,
Loch
Bigfoot would be
Loch
like,
Ness Monster, you're a little
2020.
Yeah.
Yo, what else could go wrong in 2020? So I was
Exactly.
seeing that there was an issue where we were having a hurricane called Paulette, and it died, and now it's back. It reformed. The exact same one basically zombied itself and is back. Like how much worse can 2020 get at this point when like tropical storms and hurricanes are reconstituting?
Well,
I'll
how,
tell you, RBG died. There you go.
Well, that's a whole nother fucking situation, right?
yeah, that's a big mess. But listen, how crazy is it that they ran out of names for hurricanes this season?
Yeah. They're like, oh, we
They had to
got
go
no
to the
more.
Greek alphabet because now it's like Hurricane Beta just hit Texas, and like it's like, well, we ran out of names. We got to start over.
Hurricane Pegasus is coming next week. I don't know.
Hurricane X.
Yeah.
Well, he'll get murdered.
Right. Damn it, Zeus! Come on.
You'll have Texans out there shooting at it.
But what's crazy to me also is that how are people like these QAnon people? How are they getting far enough that they're getting into elected positions in the government?
Oh God. Yeah.
Because people want to believe in something.
I mean,
So
as noted by people truly digging in and believing in religion, they just want to believe something.
Right.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's
So-
a whole other issue.
So as a therapist, I love what I do. I'll say that first and foremost. Like I hate to sound cliche, but it's a calling. Like in terms of like, you realize that like you have an ability to connect with people on an empathetic level. So that's what I love what I do, and I have a connection with people from all walks. With that comes very much this understanding that like you have to walk with people and where they are at, and you have to like work through belief systems, and that's where like QAnon and all these things come from, because people have embedded viewpoints, and it's really hard sometimes as a therapist to be like, okay, so let's dissect this shit, or let's dive into this. But it's what we do, you know, and it's a burnout factor for sure.
So let me ask you this.
Especially now.
As a therapist who
Mm-hmm.
has been on the front lines dealing with mental patients of all sorts through COVID,
Mm-hmm.
is there a uptick in I'm not going to call it craziness, but less
Acute.
desirable. Huh?
Acute symptoms.
Yeah, those. Like, has it gotten worse?
Yeah, those things.
Oh, I don't want to call
yeah.
them. I don't want to call anybody crazy because nobody wants to be called crazy.
We're all crazy though.
That nobody
That is-
wants to be called crazy.
Nobody wants to be called crazy, but nobody wants to be called anything. Like, we are who we are. So like, if you say I'm schizophrenic, that's a portion of me, but you're just defining me. But like, I get what you're saying, 100%. Yes, my industry is booming. Like, the one bad thing about the economy is great for me is that when things go bad for the world, things go very great for me in terms of what I do. But that's really not great though, because I have a hard time fitting people in, and I have a hard time trying to balance all the things that I have to deal with, because people are lost. They don't know what to do. And like in 2008, when the recession hit, I used to have guys from Wall Street who were so like affluent, and they were doing cocaine, and they were like very much like powerful, and then they lost their jobs, and they had no coping skills. They had no support system.
And
So
no
all of a
coke.
sudden yeah, and no coke. So now you have guys who are like, how the fuck do I deal with this? And so, yes, job security is great in COVID world, but at what cost? I'm dealing with like trying to help somebody repair themselves in a world that is so upside down.
I can imagine that is a daunting task at the very least, if not a Herculean task at the best. Like, I know that I was never cut out to be a therapist, because somebody would come in and tell me all their shit, and I'd just be like, oh, well, it sounds like you're fucked, buddy. Good luck.
Sucks to
Like,
be you.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go get in my fancy car and go home. Good luck.
I will say that for the first time, I think in my whole career, and like, I mean, I've had like daunting and weird cases, you know, like where being a substance abuse therapist and a mental health therapist, you hear shit all over the spectrum. But this time it's different. Where like I have teachers who are coming in and they are stressed and they are pushed to the limits. I have parents who can't afford to live and have their kids educated. And they're coming at me with their problems, and part of me wants to be like, yeah, you're fucked, like the rest of us. And it's like, that's not what I'm supposed to do. But that's my internal instinct as a human being, because it's like, you are. And I don't want you to be, but like, I don't have the answers for my own life. I certainly don't have them for yours. Like, I don't know.
So
it's very hard.
So one of the things that we've discussed a lot is the way that things are looking over the course of the next 3, 6, 9 months as evictions start to kick up, as businesses finally come to the conclusion that they can no longer make any portion of the rent payment and they have to go out of business. You know, those people are going to end up on your desk.
Absolutely.
Do we have a lack of mental health availability at this point? Or is your type of work stressed, and should that be a secondary stressor to what's going on? Like, hey, all these people are going to need mental health counseling and it's unavailable now?
Oh my God, yes. I mean, if you're lucky, you get in with a decent insurance plan that will let you be billed in service, which is what I do, like where I bill a lot of things in service. So the doctor comes in at the end, we review medication. So it's like billed as a joint service. But there's going to be a lot of people that like look on the back of your insurance cards right now. It has a behavioral health line that is different than your physical health line. And those lists are about a month to a month and a half out because they are taxed, so I probably graduated with like 200 therapists, but insurance companies are not approving them. So you have about this many patients, and probably like those of you who are not looking, probably like the space of 6 inches of provided like servicers. And they are servicing so many people that they cannot see everybody. I mean, I'm already pushed out 3 weeks. And that's me going over lunch breaks. That's me going over dinner breaks. That's me seeing people on my days off to fit people in.
Wow.
And we are so broken as a system. It's alarming to me as a therapist.
And part of that comes down to just how insurance works. Like, I'm not exactly sure how there's so few people that maybe, let's just say, you graduated with 200 people. I'm just throwing out a random number, and only 10% of them are actually in service now. So then there's, what is that? 160 people that could be providing services that are no longer even available to do so, or at least they're not able to do so in a capacity that someone can claim for health insurance. Like, how does that work? I don't understand.
So you have many legalities. I mean, some places just have a cap on how much they're going to charge or how much they're going to reimburse. So they don't reimburse. And so people drop out of the network. The other thing is that people don't understand, like, just because I graduate with a degree in counseling does not mean that I can open up my own, place and hangman on shingles. No, like the state of New Jersey requires 4,500 hours to go from a provisional license to a real license. And they take 700 off that for your college hours. That's still 2.5 years that you are working under somebody else's license, and you are being supervised, and you're paying for that supervision, and you are blood, sweat, and tears for that. So that's where that inequity comes in the amount of providers available, because I know people that I went to graduate school with that are paying $150 for supervision sessions twice a month. That's $300. That's a lot of money. And so when they don't have that, they can't get the hours counted, and it delays things, or insurance companies are not willing to reimburse the amount of money that it costs them out of pocket. So there's so much red tape that comes with it.
So what you're saying, and let me just recap it so that I understand it exactly. So there's a certain amount of work that you have to do underneath someone, basically as an apprenticeship. So like if you were an electrician, you'd be apprenticing under a master electrician, and you'd be the journeyman, and you'd have to go climb the fucking lines, and they're yelling up to you to what to do, and then at some point you become him. And is that basically the same situation? But on top of that, you have to pay them to do it.
Absolutely. Like if you're lucky enough, like my supervisor was amazing and did not charge me, but I really worked for that. I worked for 8 years at my other job to make sure that happened. But yeah, you're 100%. It's like an apprenticeship where you pay this person once, twice a month to meet with you to sign off on hours. So when you go against the state to say, hey, give me a non-provisional license, this person's just going to sign off on it. And it's such a criminal system, because what we put ourselves through in counseling school and the introspective work that you do, I just think it's highway robbery.
And there's no way around it. Like you can't be like, all right, well, I'm just going to go get my doctorate and just skip the line.
Oh, you can get your doctorate, but you still have to do extra hours, and you still have to have X amount of credits. So it's still loopholes no matter what you do. And most of the time, the only way you get around it is you get a medical doctor's license. Who wants to pay for that? If you've already got like a $90,000 like graduate degree, you want to pay $200,000 to go to medical school? Hell no! You just want to work and get your shit paid off.
Wow.
So, have you considered going back for your doctorate?
I have. So I have 2 young kids. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. I can't right now. Like they deserve mom. I'm burned. I went from associates to bachelor's to master's, and I worked full time, and I was pregnant, and I did all those things, and I would like to, but I need to be in the right frame of mind to do it. And COVID world is not that. Like I feel like my patients need me right now to be centered for them, and that's where I'm at.
I can appreciate that. I mean, and thank you for being out there for the people that you are able to see, because clearly they need it. I just can't imagine being in a situation where I would need services that just weren't available. Like that just sounds.
But here's another thing. Here's another thing to think about. Think about what this administration is trying to do with healthcare in general right now. You're talking about they're trying to, and now with this whole Supreme Court thing, a lot of people think that Obamacare is going to get repealed.
Oh God!
And
there's a lot of stuff that has a potential for getting repealed.
Right, but then also Trump, because CNN has been talking about this a lot lately. Trump keeps talking about how he's got a health plan. He said like over a year ago, he's like, yeah, we're going to reveal it in like a couple of weeks. Still nothing.
Nothing. And, not a peep.
And of course, CNN presses all of Trump's bootlickers on this thing when they have them on. And they're like, oh, well, he's going to do it on his timetable. And they're like, well, his timetable, a long time ago, he said it was going to be 2 weeks. So it's not on his timetable. And they're just, excuse. But
well, I mean, most of these people have gone from licking to just deep throating the boot. Like, they're all the way in.
For sure. But it's just the idea of like, and of course, the whole thing with pre-existing conditions, which is another story. Because, he's out there saying he's trying to protect people with pre-existing conditions. Meanwhile, he's in court trying to repeal the fucking thing that protects
People from
pre-existing conditions. But when it comes to stuff like this, it's like, how many of these people, on top of everything else, aren't going to be able to get the kind of health care they need because they're not going to have fucking insurance anymore?
Absolutely.
Because of all this bullshit.
And how many of these problems have we created as a society? So, you know, a lot of people ask me about the causation of mental health. And there's numerous theories and, you know, ideas, but we always like go back to one model. And that model is called the stress vulnerability model. And what that really means is that like you have a gene inside of you that is genetic. Somebody in your family had a mental health issue, whether it be like anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. And that is your vulnerability. A stress turns that on. And so that could be a car accident, that could be losing your job, that could be losing a child, it could be going to war, which is what we're seeing with our veterans.
Right.
And so that turns the gene on, thus creating the perfect storm for mental health issues. Why this is so important is if we get rid of pre-existing conditions, it's going to allow prescribers to say, well, this was there before they went to the military. They don't meet their insurance requirements.
Right.
And it also requires, it says like, here's your loophole to everybody getting out of treating somebody. Universal healthcare is universal. We're saying that like whether you had it at 6 or 16, you matter. And that's what I don't get about Trump Nation, where it's like, doesn't everybody have a place at the table?
Well, these are the same people yelling about not wearing their fucking masks and saying my body, my choice. But then when it comes to like women's health issues or just people's mental health issues, they're like, oh, not your body, not your choice. I only care about me. That's really all they're saying. Like literally.
Yeah.
They're just saying, I don't care about you.
And by the way, let me throw another thing out there. If I can rant on a tangent for a second.
Please rant.
One of the things that they are talking about that will qualify as a pre-existing condition is COVID.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So let's say you
had COVID and then you develop some sort of
lung issue.
Some sort of lung issue down the line, that's going to qualify as a pre-existing condition. So how fucked up is this whole fucking scenario right now?
But it's par for the course because...
Deal with these idiots, yeah.
Absolutely. What we're seeing with COVID is that much like the AIDS epidemic, people were not dying of AIDS. They were dying of AIDS-related complications. So with COVID, we're saying with COVID, like somebody who has leukemia or like congestive heart failure, they may have had like 2 years to live. Let's slash that to 6 weeks. But it's a perfect storm for anybody in the, insurance arena, because you can say, oh, well, guess what? This was pre-existing to them having COVID, but it's not. And it's such a slippery slope, and people don't realize how far it extends.
Yeah. I mean, it's anything to write it off in the insurance world.
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly the point. It's just another way to worm your way out of it.
Well, I mean, that's just like that report that came out saying that they're saying only like 9,000 people actually only died of COVID, and then everybody else was complications due to COVID based on pre-existing conditions. So they're saying that 190-some thousand people died because they had something else going on and their health was shitty. Well, you know what? Most of the people's health is shitty because they don't have access to fucking healthcare in the goddamn first place.
Exactly. That's exactly the point.
You think of what's happening in like the West Coast right now, where they have the wildfires. Like people that are asthmatic and have like COPD and everything else, like they're really suffering right now because of everything happening up there. But let's just say that like their immune system was compromised and they contracted COVID. They would not be counted towards that 9,000 because they had
something
COPD
else
or asthma. Like, what is that? That's not normal. Like, we have taken normal and skewed it to such a fucked up, profitable place that, like, humans are not humans anymore. They're just profits.
I mean, we've lost enough people to COVID and COVID-related deaths that it counts for more than 3, 4, 5 wars all combined.
Yeah.
And nobody cares. Like, and I'm not trying to say this to be crass or rude, but we lost 2,000 or 3,000 people in 9/11, and it's never forget.
Thank you.
Because the brown people attacked us and caused deaths. It was wrong. Like, whatever happened that day was wrong, and nobody deserved to die. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that people deserve to die. But if we're going to say never forget for 2,000 or 3,000 people, like, we're at 200,000 fucking people right now.
And counting.
And counting. And going. It's not, like, we didn't flatten the curve. The curve flattened on us.
With an incredible amount of negligence going on.
Across the board.
Yeah. So, I agree with you. And listen, 9/11 was terrible. And I would never take away from that. But the fact is, it's like, what's happening right now is a national tragedy. And, listen, comparing it to a war is the same thing. It's like, we lost how many people in all these different wars we've had. But here we are in a war with a disease that our own president knew was bad because he's
admittedly knew
on tape, and here's all of these shitheads all around still making excuses for him.
The excuses never end. Yeah, jump in there.
Okay, so can I have some freedom to say something super controversial?
Yeah, feel free.
Go for it.
Go for it.
I don't. Remorseful for the lives that died that day, and I feel for that. However, how can you be patriotic and American when you don't care about the COVID lives? You don't care about the women in ICE facilities getting mass hysterectomies. You don't care about the children in cages. You don't care about the people in prisons who are humans. They are citizens. They are people who have been tried and are serving their sentence. You don't care about their exposure to anything. So I'm supposed to stop that day and care about what you find important versus what's happening to our whole system. And that's where I feel now. I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'm sorry. Like, you've taken my empathy and you have ran with it and expired it. I'm out.
Well, I mean, if you want to go that route, they don't care about Flint or any of the other cities that are
absolutely
criminally passing bad water and services to its citizens. Like,
absolutely.
You don't care about the fracking issues that arise from doing that type of work. You don't care about pipelines going through sacred land or even non-sacred land and polluting water supplies. You don't care about anything other than money.
Right.
Exactly.
That's all you care about.
That's been going on.
Exactly.
That's the way it's been for a long time.
100%, Gary. And that's why I'm just this year, especially on 9/11, I was like, yeah, I'm out. I don't care. Because if this is the day that you are going to take the knee, for lack of a better way to say it, but every other day you're like, wow, let me find a justification. No, I'm sorry. I have no justification. You're an ass. You're a piece of shit because you don't care.
Well, I think the bottom line is that a lot of people need to recognize that, 9/11 was a big thing, especially for me being a New Yorker, living in New York my whole life. But also, there are a lot of things going on right now that are really, really, really fucked up. And of course, listen, you can blame social media, you can blame whatever you want. It's like what you said before about, sports getting into things when it's trendy.
Yep.
How long did it take for them to get on board with Black Lives Matter, all these things? But, there's been a lot of fucked up shit happening in this country for a long time. Because look at the mortgage crisis. Look at
absolutely.
The endless war on Obamacare, which actually got a lot of people insurance that originally wouldn't have insurance. And the fact is, people complain about Obamacare, and what they don't realize is that the issues that they have with Obamacare are because they changed it so much from what it was originally supposed to be that now it's got all these problems, and that's because they changed the fucking thing. It wasn't originally like that, but that's how it is.
Well, and
Absolutely.
They changed it to make sure that it would get signed by the Republican side.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's such a mess, and it's so fucked up. And there's so many reasons for it. We could do another 3 hours talking about the reasons why I think all this shit is happening. But there's a lot of fucked up stuff that goes on, whether it's wars for no reason because the weapons of mass destruction couldn't be found, or whether it's the water in Flint, Michigan, which, as far as I know, Len, correct me if I'm wrong, but they never really solved that fucking problem.
Oh no, that problem is still a festering situation.
Yeah.
Like, I think they rerouted the water, but the pipes are corroded from the bad water, so it doesn't even matter that they put their regular water supply back on. You're still killing people by providing them lead-filled water because their pipes corroded, and now you have a situation where no clean water can get there until they replace the pipes. Now,
which is in quadrants. They're doing it in very small quadrants and over extreme amounts of time.
But the problem is, even as you do it in quadrants, unless you do all the quadrants kind of at once, you're going to have backwards corrosion. It will corrode.
Absolutely.
It's going to ruin the small progress. So you're going to have to continually make small progress. The amount of money it would have taken to just wholesale fix it in 6 months, 2 years, whatever, because it's been a few years at this point, is much less than how much it's going to end up costing them in the long run. Right. Someone should have stepped in and fucking fixed this, right? It should have never even occurred.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, normally, the federal government would, but, look at who we're dealing with here.
Yeah. Goddamn mess.
But, it brings an interesting point to Gary, what you said. So I looked it up. The population of Fargo, North Dakota, in terms of African-American population, is 8%.
And how many people are in Fargo?
160,000.
160,000. So 8% of 160,000 is 9,000 people.
I'm gonna take your word on that one. But I'm saying, in Flint, let's do the math on that side. It's so different, and so that's why there is that inequity in caring, where it's okay, well, in Flint, the population is very much so reversed. So who do we care about? Same thing with the coronavirus. We're seeing it the numbers are astronomical in the African American, especially male community.
I was
not
wrong.
Hearing that.
It's 13,000 people. I was off by 4,000. I was just throwing a guess out there. But still, not a lot of people. Couldn't even fill a football stadium with that.
Well, now you could. Don't hate. But I'm saying, the inequity is so clear, where it's we care about one faction,
right,
versus another.
Well, I've talked about that because at one point when Cuomo did a breakdown by zip code of coronavirus cases in the city months ago, when it was at its peak, the zip code where I work was the worst, and where I work is the hood. The hood, where the only options they've got is an urgent care that looks like a meat market, or the hospital.
Awesome.
That's it.
An urgent care that looks like a meat market.
I'm not even kidding. It's like you walk in there and they got plastic curtains and shit. Like, I'm not even joking.
Hey.
Like, that's how it is in the hood. In the black and Hispanic neighborhoods in the Bronx. That's how it is. That's what a lot of people have. And
there's no opportunity for it to change because there's no money coming in there.
No.
And that's what we need, is monetary opportunity. Because otherwise, it will just continue in perpetuity. There will never be anything more than that for people who are stuck in that situation.
Exactly. But that's, that neighborhood is a perfect example of what we're talking about when it comes to the issues with minority populations in COVID.
Right.
Because that area was hit hard because that's all they got.
I feel so bad for those people, for people in general, like just stuck in a poverty situation and unable to fend for themselves, either due to lack of jobs, lack of health care, lack of food. I mean, most of the people living in these situations live in food deserts. I mean, I know for a fact if you go into Trenton, there is not one actual grocery store within city limits. It does not exist. You need to go out into one of the actual suburbs. Otherwise, all you have are small, corner stores. Yeah. I'm not even going to call them bodegas because they're not even bodegas. They're just somebody's regular corner store that might sell milk and eggs. There's no vegetables. There's no fresh food of any sort. And how do you expect people to live? You can't live a healthy life if you don't have access to food.
Well, you don't care if they live or not. My husband and I were talking about the inequity and the classism in education, where I have a master's degree, my husband's into college, he has a professional job, and so our son's going to be okay with virtual learning. But think about the parents who are virtual learning, who've never been exposed to half these programs online, who have not been versed in the English language. So now you're asking them to help their children at home virtually a couple hours a day. This is classism at its best. It's those who can will, those who can't, good luck out there. Right. So our society has really become a very much us and them.
And I mean, I know that I fall into the us category in most ways because obviously I still have a job. I'm able to provide for everything that I need to get done, and I'm not struggling in any kind of way, and I don't take it for granted. I know that I'm one of the lucky people that are doing okay considering all the shit that's going on right now. Could it be better for me? Absolutely. Could it be worse? No fucking doubt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky. Listen, if I had any other job that I've had in the past 15, 20 years at this point, I'd be out of work.
You'd be living on somebody's couch.
They would have let me go. I wouldn't be able to afford my rent here. I would end up, on somebody's couch because it just wouldn't work. I'm lucky that I have the job I have now, but and that's me. I know a lot of people, and we talked about it before. Listen, Len and I are musicians. We know a lot of people that go out on tour all the time. We know a lot of people that go out and sell merch for bands and do other shit for bands. I know people that do lighting and sound and all kinds of stuff. And those people are all fucked. There's no work.
Absolutely.
There's no tours. There's no nothing. So all those people are assed out right now, and it's crazy. You know?
It's horrible.
Yeah, I just can't, like, anybody doing something art related that requires in-person contact or on the road work is just screwed.
Well, that, and then if you get into the whole restaurant business, that's another mess.
Jesus. So pretty much almost every
we're going there
restaurant.
tonight. Come on.
Almost every restaurant around me is struggling. And as these winter months start to close in, and they're only able to do 25% inside, and the outside seating arrangements become too cold, because, let's face it, you can't put space heaters inside of tents without causing it to be a fire hazard. So, what are they going to do then? Like, what is this next step? Because if they don't start upping the amount of people allowed inside, you will continue to have waiters and waitresses that can't make the money that they need to, support their household. You're going to have businesses that aren't able to pay their rent. And then down the line, you're going to also have food purveyors who provide those restaurants with quality materials that aren't able to actually sell the things that they need to sell, and they're going to go out of business. And it's just a continual downhill slope into welcome to Costco, I love you. And we're going to have basically 3 big stores that cover everything that we ever need, and it's going to be, Amazon, Costco, and BJ's, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Walmart by my house closed.
Wow.
So
that's when you know it's bad.
They said that it's the Walmart in Princeton, for that matter. They said they were planning on closing before COVID started anyway, but I think that's bullshit. I think it's that they were closed in Princeton, having to pay Princeton rent for they closed in August, so for 5 months, and they didn't have the foot traffic that they normally would have. People wasn't buying, online and pick it up at the curb enough to support the level of rent in that location. Yeah. And they were like, doesn't make sense, we're out of here.
Yeah, because for them it's no big deal, but for your local pizza place or something, that's death.
Right. But you figure if Walmart went out, that means that somebody that had a McDonald's franchise in there, they went out of business. Right. The people who were running the eyeglass franchise out of that Walmart, they're out of business. The Subway, out of business. Like all the other things that are attached to it.
And just the regular people that work in that Walmart.
Yeah, I'm just sticking at the businesses, but then you got the people. They said that they were going to transfer any of the people that work there to other local stores as they were available. So maybe a few of them got a job. A few.
Yeah, they went somewhere else. They went somewhere else so that they can get yelled at for making people wear a mask.
Right. So it's just like
damn Karens.
It's just like I don't know how we recover from this.
Well, because I sent you this thing the other day when I was watching Channel 5 News.
What is Channel 5 for you? Because for me, Channel 5 is Fox.
Fox.
Okay.
Same thing. But you what do you get? Philly?
No, I get both. Nah, I'm in that fucking glory zone where I get both Philadelphia and New York. So like everything is doubled on my TV.
Fancy.
So growing up, I had Channel 2 was CBS, and then 3 and 4 were NBC, and it was NBC Philly or NBC New York. 5 was Fox New York, and then 6 and 7 were ABC Philly and New York, and then 10 was CBS Philadelphia.
That's some serious fence riding shit.
Yeah, and then I also had PIX, so WPIX, which was the one that used the Twin Towers for its 11.
That's where I used to watch a lot of wrestling on there.
but I also got whatever WGN network, which is the Philadelphia one that matched whatever PIX was doing. So I had access to both Philadelphia and New York my entire life. And there's only a few. Wait, say that again?
No, you go.
Mercer County is one of the only counties that actually gets serviced with both the New York and Philadelphia markets. And it's because of the train stations that we have here, and we have people that work in both locations.
Right. Oh, that's some baller shit.
I didn't know it was cool at the time, but you know.
So anyway, to go to, I managed to snap this image and then I sent it to Len.
When did you send it?
What's that?
What day was it that you sent it?
Let me see. What day was that? Yesterday.
He wants receipts.
That was yesterday.
Yesterday. All right. Let me look at this phone here.
It was last night at 5:30, so it was a 5 o'clock news, and they did an article talking about restaurants and the issues the restaurants are having, and these numbers are from
I see that.
the New York City Hospitality Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
And they say nearly 9 out of 10 restaurants, bars, nightlife venues could not make their rent in August. 34% could not pay any rent at all. And that's a survey of 450 different businesses.
I mean,
so
that's a huge hit.
34% of them could not pay any of their fucking rent.
They can't continue that way. They're going to get ousted.
because as we've discussed a million times, you know, unless something happens where there's some sort of rent forgiveness, which, you know, Trump won't do. You know, they pushed, I also saw on the news yesterday that they pushed evictions. The moratorium on evictions now runs out October 20th or something like that. They keep bumping it. But eventually, when that moratorium on evictions is lifted, that's when everything's going to catch fire. Because all of these guys, look, we're over 9 months now since everything pretty much shut down.
Well, no, we shut down in March, so it's 6 months. We're over 6 months.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. It's 6 months, not 9 months. I'm getting my math all wrong. Because I'm thinking
it's like 3 years, but okay.
Yeah. I'm thinking of 9th month. That's why.
Right.
So it's been 6 months now, and you know, as we've pointed out a million times, it's like that 8 ball is just rolling behind you, getting bigger. Because as they keep pushing off the evictions, that doesn't mean that you don't owe that rent.
Right.
That's right.
And sooner or later, once they lift the evictions,
it's all going to come home to roost, baby.
Then suddenly you owe 6 months rent. And I don't care how much food you're selling, if you're selling enough that you can cover, you know, 6 months rent
in a month,
then
you didn't need the month. You didn't need the layoff anyway.
Yeah.
You should have had that money back.
But a lot of these places are going to be in deep shit.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, driving through my town, and I've pointed this out on other shows that we've done, my town is a depressed town. In 92, we lost the GM factory and the Naval Air Propulsion site and the Homosoap factory where they make like soundboard and specialty sheetrock, etc. They halved their production, all right around 92 through 94. So 3 major job producers for my town and the surrounding towns just out of business.
Wow.
So
Crazy.
We've had a slow decline into a basically dead zone. The only thing that's keeping us afloat is that we are along the corridor between, as I mentioned earlier, New York and Philadelphia. So it's easy to live here and catch the train somewhere else to go to work. So it's cheap enough to live, but it's also convenient enough to other locations. But with that, people aren't around, and they don't want to go to like your shitty restaurant in the fucking rundown shopping center that you are parked in. And it's like everybody is slowly going the way of the buffalo, just either migrating away to other towns that are better or completely shutting down. Like you've been to my studio, Gary.
Yeah.
You know that the location is perfect for what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's clearly built in, we'll call it 72, and hasn't been updated since. Like my interior is updated, but the physical building itself, you look at it and you're like, man, this is a dead mall.
Yeah, they haven't put any effort into the infrastructure in quite a while.
I mean, the parking lot is a war zone. If you look at any of the buildings, the gutters are ripping off, and nice guy who is the the landlord. Like, I have no issue with him personally, but clearly he's left the place to rot.
Right.
And it's like, if that's how it's going to be, that's how it's going to be. But that's how it is through almost the entirety of Ewing Township. What the only things that are nice are the new things that are being built, and it's all small scale stuff. So it's like the Rite Aid is brand new because Rite Aid can afford to come in and build a new fucking building.
Well, Rite Aid at this point, a lot of those places are
turning into Walgreens or whatever.
It's like they got a pill, just add water.
Yep.
Like Marvin the Martian, and suddenly a Rite Aid pops up because they're all built the same way now.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, because McDonald's and like fast food places are like that too. It's like they built it in a month. Oh, how did they build it in a month? Oh, because they're just following the same plans. Everyone you walk into looks exactly the same.
Exactly.
Just repeat process.
Yeah.
Just here's the basic layout. Put this in, the people will come. Build it, and the people will come.
Right.
It's comfort.
So, I mean, I will say that it is nice that when you're thinking about it, you're traveling somewhere and you're like, fuck, I'm hungry and I don't know what to eat and I don't know what's good and I don't have a lot of money, and you're like, well, McDonald's is always the same no matter where I go. I understand the concept of keeping everything similar across the board so that no matter where you go, you get the same experience, but it also leaves something to be desired.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But that's not the goal. The goal is to help you feel safe. The goal is to help you feel comfortable. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's much like this same. Every movie theater is the same. Every TGI Fridays is the same. Every, chain is the same. It's a comfort. It's a level of like feeling dependable.
That's something I want to get into. I want to switch gears here a minute. I genuinely miss going to the movies, even though I haven't really gone to the movies in years at this point. Like, I've just been so busy that I haven't really been taking myself to the movies to see anything. The last thing I remember seeing in the theater was the last Halloween movie that came out, and before that was The Hateful Eight. So it's not like I'm going to the movie theater all the fucking time at this point. But the fact that they're pretty much not open, or if they are open, it's like, 10 people to the theater, and I don't want to go in there and they're a little dirty and people are coughing everywhere. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I'm good. And I don't want to sit there with a mask on and watch a movie. It's just not really.
Yeah, it's all weird. And I am a movie theater guy. I love going to the movies. I love sitting down and watching in a movie theater.
I mean, I do love it, but what I'm saying is I miss it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I still would go, like, I go every time a Marvel or Star Wars movie opens. I'm usually there opening night or opening weekend. I just, now it's so weird. And now the drive-in thing is picking up more and more. And I don't know how I feel about it.
I have never been to the drive-in. I've never been to a drive-in.
I haven't been since I was a kid.
Like, when they existed, when I was a kid, my parents were like, no. They just, I mean, there was no explanation. It was just no. They didn't want to go. They wouldn't take me there. Like, there was one on what is called Business Route 1. It's probably like 5 minutes from my current house. Like, I could easily have gotten there if it existed, but there's a fucking retirement community there. And honestly, they didn't actually pull down the drive-in sign until about 5 or 6 years ago.
That happens a lot.
You could just be driving along, you see the sign, it didn't have anything on it, but if you knew what it was, you knew.
Yeah.
And I guess it got to the point where it rotted and they had to take it down.
That's amazing, though. Like, just to have, like, history there. You know what I mean? Like, if nothing else.
I just want to go over there and knock down the old people's houses and put the fucking movie theater back up. Like, do they really need these houses? No. Let's get rid of them, put the drive-in back up. Let's go.
I think about that when I go past Amboy Cinemas on Route 9. Like,
9 and 35?
Yeah, I remember growing up and, coming out here every summer to visit, my mom's family, which is the Jersey family. And we would go there, and the last movie I saw was Dangerous Minds.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
Hey, that's a great movie. Don't hate on it.
I'm not hating on it, but I don't like it. I don't think I like it. But that was that one with the Coolio song, right?
Oh, yeah.
What year was that? Like 96?
95.
Ugh,
just looked it up.
Enough to be still embarrassed in my 30s. There you go.
So earlier you mentioned that you were all about 80s movies. Like what's a top? What are your top 5 80s movies that you're absolutely in love with?
All right. So number 1. Sorry, allergies are the worst.
And you got that COVID, don't you?
I do. I'm sorry. No, so number 1 80s movie is Better Off Dead. Like, anybody who knows me knows that Better Off Dead is my piece. That's my favorite all-time 80s movie. And I'm a girl who loves the typical shit, but I love Better Off Dead. I love Gleaming the Cube. Gleaming the Cube is probably a solid second. Yes. That's legit. And Heather's is number 3. And I'm going to probably go, Adventures in Babysitting. And
isn't Adventures in Babysitting 91 though? Or is that 89?
I'm just going to say it's an 80s.
Actually,
I mean, Elizabeth Shue is in it, but
according to what I have, Adventures in Babysitting was 87.
87. Wow, I thought it was a little bit later.
Nope.
So I mean, she almost jumped on that right after being in Karate Kid, because Karate Kid was 84.
Yeah, well, she did something else in between there too.
And Teen Witch. I love Teen Witch. It's so good.
I'm going to say that I never
did Back to the Future 2 in 89.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Adventures in Babysitting.
Yeah, it was after.
All right. Back to the Future 2, the whole Pizza Hut scene, I'm still upset about. Even in my 30s, I'm like, why the fuck have we not come out with that? Where, a little pocket makes a Pizza Hut pizza in my house. What the fuck? I'm legit mad about it. I'm like, come on, folks. You have a Tesla. Let's go with the Pizza Hut, microwavable shit. Pizza Hut's my favorite pizza. I'm waiting.
Well, you're from the Midwest.
The first one I've heard say that. I know a lot of people are upset that we don't have self-tying sneakers, but
yeah, or self-drying jackets.
Yeah.
Yo, the self-drying jacket is where it's at.
No, Pizza Hut pizza. The microwave.
So, I could probably rant about how much I love both Back to the Future 1 and 2 for 4 or 5 hours, if given the chance, because it's one of my favorite movie franchises until you give me Back to the Future 3 and they ruin everything.
That is so
garbage.
funny because that's exactly how I feel.
Like literally,
1 and 2 were so great, and then 3 was like,
they just what the fuck happened? They shit the bed so hard, and they made the movies back to back. Like they made them basically the exact same time, and
Same
no,
time.
like where was the quality control person to be like, no, don't do that. Like that's a terrible concept. No, there was nobody to say no.
The Godfather, they did the same thing. Number 3 is awful. Like, it's the worst fucking thing in the entire world.
That movie doesn't exist. So, like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. That movie doesn't exist. No, I don't. I've fully put that movie out of my memory. It's not a real movie. It's just something people talk about randomly.
It's like that Genie movie with Sinbad. Never happened.
Shazam.
Yep.
Now your Christmas baskets are going to be full of fucking Back to the Future 3 and Godfather 3 and Shazam shit. I swear to God.
No Christmas.
You know what that is, right, Len?
That's war.
That's roadside movies.
Yeah, roadside movies. So, we were in a
but
previous
roadside movies aren't bad though. Like it just depends, right? One, like, okay, so here's an unknown fact about me, but I'll let you in on it. My favorite movie of all time is Barry Gordy's The Last Dragon.
But there's
sure enough. No, but I'm saying like that was an old like WGN After 9 like movie theater like thing we used to see on cable. And like everybody was like, "Oh, that movie's like awful," and I'm like, "No! Oh my god, that movie's the best thing ever."
I don't know anybody that says that movie is awful.
Yeah, there's nobody that says that movie is awful. Shown Up is enough to make that movie like king shit movie. So let me just say, and this is a side tangent. I saw that movie in the theater. Huh?
I said, "Do you have the glow?"
Yes, I definitely have the glow. No, I went to the theater to see that movie. Now, I think what year did that come out? 83, if I'm guessing, maybe 84. But my cousins took
Last Dragon was 85.
85. So
oh god, I was 2.
I was 8, and my cousins were like a little bit older than me. So one was like 10, and the others were like 12 and 14 or 15, something like that. And their mother my aunt dropped us off at the movie theater and was just like, "Here, have fun, go watch this movie at like, I don't know, 7 o'clock." I had no business watching this movie at 8, B, being out this late. My mother found out that I went to watch the movie and was pissed. But that's a story for another day. I immediately fell in love with this movie, and to this day, if it's on TV, it doesn't matter whether it's the last 10 seconds or it's just starting. I watch the whole thing. I watch what's available to me if I see it, because that movie is wonderful. Now,
I literally
my top
have to
10?
hold myself back. Oh, sorry.
I'm just saying, will it make my top 10? No, but I do love that movie.
I feel betrayed by your answer, but whatever. But literally, every time I talk to a pizza delivery guy, I have to hold myself back from saying, "My soul brother, tell me what it is." Like, every time. Because it's the scene that's embedded in my head as a child. And I'm like, I can't help it. I know it's inappropriate, but I'm going to do it.
See, the scene that's embedded in my head, I think we talked about this about Spaceballs, is the "we ain't found shit" scene. I think we just talked about it last week. But literally, me and my friend Horace, who's since passed on due to complications from drug use, we would sit around and watch that movie. But every time that would come up, we would rewind it and watch that part like 50 times in a row and just end up like crying on the floor because it's just so fucking funny. The whole movie is funny.
Perfect.
For that matter. So did you get through all 5? And if so, recap your list.
Oh shit! Like, I'm too drunk for that. This is not good. This is like drunk history, but like current drunk history.
Well, I know you said obviously Better Off Dead.
Oh, Better Off Dead is number 1.
Right.
And then, okay, so we're not going to go in order anymore. So I would definitely say Godfather is in that list. Barry Gordy's Last Dragon.
Well, but whoa, we were talking about 80s movies, so The Godfather doesn't count, does it?
I thought it does.
The first one was in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
But
Yeah.
the first two, 72 and 74.
Oh my God, you guys are old and technical. Okay, getting there. Damn it. I'm just kidding.
Sorry to
You did say Breakfast
80s
Club.
movies, which is what you chose.
Fair enough. No, so Breakfast Club, Adventures in Babysitting, which, best movie ever. Dirty Dancing, and I'll double down. Teen Witch. Oh my God,
Yeah, you
that
mentioned
movie
that.
is
Did mention
so
Teen
fucking
Witch.
good.
Which I don't even know that movie. Like literally, I gotta look it up right now just so that I even know.
I'm looking it up too
So
because I
bad,
honestly
but
don't remember
so
it either.
good. Oh my God, there is like a white girl rap scene.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Oh Jesus Christ, this movie. Okay,
Yeah.
now I remember this movie, and I remember why I don't remember this movie.
Oh, it's so good though.
No.
Oh no, but Gleaming
it's-
the Cube we were talking about.
Yes.
Yes, you mentioned that.
Now I like Gleaming the Cube. I like that movie. I wouldn't put that in the top, even a
That
top
wouldn't be
20.
my top, but it's not a bad movie.
I own it. Like for everything that I own upstairs, there's 500 movies on a rack. I own Gleaming the Cube because I do enjoy the movie, but it's not in my top
so good.
for the 80s. Gary, do
You
you
know,
have
it
some top
defines
movies
me.
for the 80s?
I don't have a concrete list, but just running a few off the top of my head. The Breakfast Club is a classic. And one of the things with me is that a lot of these movies are quotable.
Right.
So there's so many quotes from The Breakfast Club
Yeah. It's,
that are so good. And then the next one has a lot of quotable stuff too. Greasy pork sandwich served in a dirty ashtray. Weird Science.
yes. Such a good movie.
So
Another
good.
classic. And then I'll get in, I can go, the Back to the Future movies. And if you want to go serious sci-fi, Flash Gordon, which is one of my favorites in my top 3 of all time.
You're gonna hate me. I fucking hate that movie.
Good for you.
I feel great. I feel amazing right now.
That shit is an absolute classic.
It's so hokey. I can't do it.
You know what? Like The Last Dragon's not a little hokey sometimes?
Yeah, but it's got black people in it, so I'm cool with it.
Oh, I see.
Oh, is that the whole thing with the Wiz? Is that the thing with the Wiz?
No, I don't fuck with The Wiz at all. That movie is terrible.
So bad.
Fuck the Wiz.
It's so bad.
And then Blade Runner, which
Okay.
is a classic for so many reasons. But then, I can get off in all these different directions because I wasn't really a fan of like the more generic type of 80s movies like 16 Candles and stuff like that. Like,
See, I love 16 Candles. I love that movie. But
Long
it's
Duck
also
Dawn
not-
is like my man.
yeah, Long Duck. No more Yankee, my wanky. Long. The dog needs food.
The
But,
good
like-
food.
I mean, there's so many others like Goonies.
Yeah. Goonies is a
The
wonderful.
Running Man. Like the
Running Man was great.
is
Yeah.
up there.
And then you get into horror movies like we've talked about. A lot of those early 80s horror movies were classics for so many reasons. And then some of them were just classics because they were terrible. Yes.
Gary, let's see if I can mess with you.
Uh-oh.
What is your top 3 horror movies? Because I'm a horror movie aficionado. Like, I love that stuff.
Well, we did an episode of the podcast that ended up being all about horror movies, which we didn't plan to go that long with it. It ended up just going because we had Phil from my radon, who's a good friend of mine who goes to conventions and shit. I'm not an aficionado, especially of the more recent stuff. Like, I long lost interest in horror movies. Like, I haven't watched any recent shit, like, since, like, the second Saw movie, maybe. But if, the first couple of Friday the 13th movies and Nightmare on Elm Street movies, I was always a big fan of. Sleepaway Camp was a classic. Night of the Demons. I'd have to really think about a couple more. And then, then I could just laugh about certain stuff like Jaws 3D.
Well, Jaws 3D is just laughable in general.
I actually saw that in the theater.
I feel bad for you. Did they give you the glasses and everything?
In your favorite state of Florida.
Fuck Florida.
Yeah, I was on vacation with my family, and I was a kid whenever that movie came out. And we ended up going to the movies down there and saw that. That was 83. So I was 10 years old.
Right. So if I had to give a list of my top 5 from the 80s, number 1 is Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
That's another classic that I forgot to mention.
If you know anything about me, you know that my name on the internet for a long time running has been Abe Froman. So, it should be no surprise that would fall into that.
Massage King.
Yes. Then Better Off Dead is actually in my top 5. I love that movie from if we're talking about movies from the 80s. Full Metal Jacket. That movie is fucking
that's
insane.
That's another classic.
So good. I don't really care about war stuff, but R. Lee Ermey is so good in that fucking movie that as a kid I wanted to be him. If you soldiers leave my island, yo, come on. That entire speech alone is perfect. Karate Kid 1 and 2. Not 3, because 3 is trash. 1 and 2, but I count them as 1.
Yep.
And then European Vacation. It for me, I just fell in love.
All the vacation movies.
Specifically, I fell in love with European Vacation. I don't like Vegas Vacation at all. I've grown to like it, but it
doesn't hold up.
When I watched it originally, I was just like meh. And my number 5.
It's not bad, but it's not up there with those.
Coming to America.
Yes.
Infinitely quotable.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
I'm going to add one, though. The Shining. The Shining was in 1980.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Can't dispute that.
Just trying to sneak that in. You're just trying to sneak that in. You're like, 80s.
No, we were talking about horror movies as well. And, that is my number 1 horror movie where it's oh, my God. I've been to hotels where, I've looked down hallways and I'm like, oh, shit. This is The Shining. And it's one of, the freakiest movies ever. And so that's why I like it, Mr. Carmichael.
All right. I actually really want to go to the Stanley Hotel. It's on my list of things to do, hopefully before my bucket is kicked. I realize that it's not actually the hotel from the movie, but it's the idea or the setting of the location. Mm-hmm. And I really want to just go there and spend 3 or 4 days just kind of hanging out, just get the vibe, and just say I've been there. But I don't want to do it in the middle of the winter.
The hotel from the movie is freaky as shit.
I've
been there once. Yes, I have.
Okay.
So it's in Mount Hood, Oregon, and my husband's family has family in Bend, and they have family in Portland, and so we were out there one summer, and they took us there. And when you go in, it's not the interior shot, 'cause the interior shot of The Shining is from the Stanley.
Right.
But so the exterior is that, and but when you walk in, it's vintage as fuck, and it's really oh shit, okay, this is kind of unsettling. And then they have this whole history wing, which is all just kind of National History Museum, where you have all those statues looking in pose. And they have that for the history of Oregon. And you're okay, so this is really messed up. It's such a freaky place to go that you're like, okay, I just like kind of want to go now. Like,
So, if we're going to talk about movies that are kind of off the beaten path from the 80s that I absolutely loved, there's one that, Gary, you probably would never expect me to say this, but The Last Starfighter. I fucking loved that movie.
That was a good movie.
Now, I know if I go back and watch it right now, I'll be like, yo, this movie is fucking terrible. But when I was a kid in the 80s, I thought it was wonderful.
Well, but, you know, that's the thing. A lot of it seems corny, especially if you look at it now. But for back then, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, you can't expect... Like Blade Runner, even now, if you watch it, is still visually mind-blowing. But not everything holds up like that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible for a lot of that shit to hold up.
Movies like Blade Runner and Alien, like, that shit still holds up now, which is crazy.
You know what still holds up right now? First Blood. Still holds up right now.
Yeah.
Because it's dirty enough to hold up.
Mm-hmm.
so good.
If we go talk about horror movies, though, just for a second, the only horror movies that truly stand up to the test of time to me are the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, because it's just so gritty. The first Halloween, well, Halloween 1 and 2, because they're kind of the same.
Right.
And Friday the 13th. Enjoy the a few episodes of both Pinhead and Freddy, but you know, I find them to be more hokey than the others because they relied a little too much on comedy and not enough on killing. So they still hold up, but the ones that I mentioned originally are the ones that I'm like, no matter what you do as a horror fan, you better have watched those movies.
Nightmare on Elm Street 4, golden.
Which one is that? Is that the
Drama-Rama, anything. Oh my god, that's like the best one ever.
Yeah, I don't think I liked that one. I liked 3. 3 was the one that I was like most into.
4 was the Dream Master.
Thank you. And this is
Okay,
the
wait,
best
I was
one
not-
ever.
I was not a huge fan.
I like Dream Master. It's okay, but 3 was the one that I was like all fully on board with,
Well,
other
3
than 1.
3 had Dokken.
That it did. Yo,
I'm just saying, like,
Dokken?
That's just sold me.
3 is okay. My heart is hurt, but 4 is the best one. And like the Roach Motel in that one, like, that's my favorite one ever.
I'm still reeling on your fucking Teen Witch bullshit. I don't know. I don't know if I can even trust you on these movie decisions now, because I'm like, you might as well have said no holds barred.
Oh, come on.
Dude, that was awful. Okay, come on. I have some class here, all right?
Well,
That was a direct dig for Gary. Sorry, I was just fucking with him.
we're also forgetting another one that's a classic. 2, really. The movie version of The Twilight Zone.
Oh, so good.
Oh,
It's great.
Yo, that
and-
shit.
we did talk
Yeah.
about that today.
And Creepshow.
Oh God, Creepshow.
Creepshow 2.
Creepshow
with
2
the
ruined my whole
rats.
life.
Oh my god, the rats in the lake.
Yeah.
Like, you have no
Yep.
idea. I still,
Dude.
every time I go into a lake to swim, I'm like, I'm from the Midwest. That's what we do. And I'm still like, I'm going to die right now. Like,
I
I'm
watched
okay with dying.
I watched Creepshow 2 with this kid that I no longer talk to. We're not friends. But, you know, that scene where they hit the guy and then the guy ended up in the car when she got home. And she's like, thanks. He's like, thanks for the ride, lady.
He's gonna ride.
That was the end of my entire summer. I could not look in the backseat of my mother's car because I swore that she was going to be waiting for me in there.
Wow.
Like, we were going out somewhere, and my mom was like, all right, well, you got to sit in the back. I was like, I ain't getting in the back. And she's like, what is the problem? And I'm like, no. And, like, I literally had a full-on meltdown like sitting on the curb. I was like, I am not getting in the back seat. And I had to fess
hey,
up.
Len, just get in the car. And you're like, ah!
Oh, whoa! Just, I had to fess up that I had watched Creepshow with my friend, and like it freaked me out. And she was like, "You're never going there again." Like, that's not how this works. That's just not how this works.
Like, I'm too far in, Mom.
Yeah. Oh man, that was rough.
Kind of funny. Like, so now I'm a mom, and so when I was like 13, I remember like The Craft was like the movie, and like Pete Ulrich was like, ugh, the guy, and he really was. Like, I was like obsessed, and like my mom was like super liberal. She's awesome. She's a flaky, crazy public school teacher who probably should have retired years ago and got an Adderall. That's my mom. But I love her. But like, she wouldn't let me go see The Craft because she was worried I would practice witchcraft. I'm like, Mom, like, what are you talking about? Yeah, and like now as a parent, I'm like, oh my God, if that's what they want us to do, I'd be like, oh my God, thank you for being normal and not like a heroin addict. Cool. Awesome. Go watch The Craft, kid. Do your thing.
Please go watch The Craft. Get out of my face.
Right.
Well, come on. Don't you know that Harry Potter is turning kids to Satan?
Oh, Jesus.
Oh my God. Like, you know what? Good, Harry Potter. Like, turn to Satan. That's awesome because it's better than being a Republican. I don't know. Like...
But the worst part is that J.K. Rowling is clearly like not into the idea of, anything other than straight relationships. Like, she's been out there saying like some wild and crazy shit. So she has the imagination to come up with some otherworldly nonsense, but she can't take the idea that, two human beings just could find love whichever way that they find it. Why do you care?
Because she created butterbeer and that shit is awesome. No, I'm kidding. I've never had it.
Yeah, but I know you enough that I know that you would drink it if it was offered.
Probably. But like, nonetheless, like, here's the thing. Let her have her viewpoint. Like, let her like not think that like gay marriage is okay. Who cares? It's like, it's the people that want to stand in their way. Like, okay, here's the thing. I don't want anything in my asshole, but I think that sodomy is okay. You know what I mean? Like, just don't put anything up there.
That escalated quickly.
No, I'm just saying, like, I'm not going to say, you need to pass a law that sodomy is not okay. Just because I don't think it's okay for me, it doesn't need to be a law. And I think that, like, Americans lost sight of that, where it's like, listen, folks.
Well, that's because Americans are too busy minding everybody else's business.
Yeah, Americans as a whole need a whole lot of mind your own fucking business.
Exactly.
Yeah, like if you want to be if you're gay or you want to be a swinger or whatever, like, I don't care. It affects my life not one bit.
Exactly.
But all these people are so concentrated on, we can't have people like that. Like, who gives a fuck?
Lay off the children, lay off the unwilling, and lay off the animals. Yeah. Everything else is fair game. I don't care what you're doing.
Consenting adults, knock yourself out.
Yeah, like people are like, oh, transgenders shouldn't serve in the military. Who the fuck are you to care? You're a pussy who's sitting at home. Like, stop. Like, to me, it's like, that's what you want to do, okay, do you. I don't want to lose my child or my life to the military, but if that's what you want, baby, do your thing. Right. I think that people think their opinion is fact now, and it's like, emotions are not facts, folks. Like, you missed this memo somewhere along in life where it's like,
but they believe,
feel something.
They believe their emotions are fact, though.
Right.
And that's the fucked up thing now. It's like, no, it's not. Like, just because you feel something doesn't make it so. It just makes it is. Like, there's two different realities.
Yeah, we were just discussing this recently, me and Len, about gay marriage. It's like, you know what? Like, okay, I've got gay friends and it's cool. Like, okay, cool, you can get married. But you know how much it affects my daily life that gay people get married? It doesn't.
Right. Like,
And it doesn't affect anybody else's.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, you poor sucker, you decided to buy into the system. Good for you. Like, keep it moving. Like, who cares?
People with nothing better to do.
Right.
Exactly.
I personally believe that a lot of the things, and this is probably going to get me blasted for saying it, but a lot of the things that people like to complain about that aren't true social issues are because they have nothing else to complain about. So they have to make up something to make themselves feel better because they're complaining.
Yeah.
Like,
I can definitely see that.
I have so much going on in my life that I'm not out complaining about anything because I got better things to fucking do.
Right.
Do I know that there's fucked up things in the world? Yes. Do I care about them? Yes. And if something is egregious enough that I feel the need to speak up, I will. But it's not going to be some tertiary nonsense that I can just, move on with my day about.
See, like, I agree with you, but, like, this is probably going to get me totally blasted, too. I don't think that way. Like, I think it's, like, coming down to, like, it's not about them. It's about you. Like, they don't give a fuck, the world, if I go back to work, as long as they have their services met and they feel safe. Like, if they had to go back to work and I was a service meter, then they were like, oh no, I don't feel safe. I feel vulnerable. And so we've become such like a me-centric society where it's like, this is what I want and you need to give it to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just so like, wow, like altruism is dead. Like it's gone. Like there's no more, like we're all in this together. It's all like, no, this is about what I want.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm just so, whoa.
Well, because I've pointed it out before that it's just an extension of selfie culture. That everybody is just taking pictures of themselves, and everybody's all about themselves, and it's just an extension of that. It's just me, 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 me. You know, like when you go, you got people fighting about being told to wear a mask. It's like, oh, me, 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 me. It's all the same shit. It all spins off of that.
I was texting Len actually the night that RBG passed away, and I was like, I'm so scared. And it's like, I'm not having any more kids. I'm okay. Like, I'm older, but I worry about my daughter. So it's not just about me. It's about everybody. It's like, we're all in this together. And like, the fact that one faction who is governing so much of the United States has that viewpoint, it's so unsettling to me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh.
And I know what you mean because I've got 2 girls. So
right. Like,
one of the
like,
worst parts is that these are the same people that when their daughters find themselves pregnant and uninterested in keeping that baby, they're the first ones to jump on that service.
Right.
Even though they want to shut it out for everyone else.
Well, because in the end, they'll always have the means
to get it done.
Right. Just like COVID tests, like regular people can't get a fucking COVID test fast enough, but yet Trump gets tested like every day, and you think he's waiting 3 days?
Nope. He knows.
NFL players, NBA players are getting it within 24 hours.
Exactly. So, it's all, if you've got the means,
they've got the way.
But that's the whole thing with COVID from the beginning. It's like Trump was always like, we have testing. We have plenty of testing. No, you don't. Because the problem is if you're a normal, regular person, you go and you get your COVID test. It takes a week to get the results. By that time, the whole contact tracing thing is already out the window because you've already infected how many fucking people.
Yep.
Exactly.
It's not like you find out within 24 hours and you can tell people.
So, on that note, Notre Dame had to cancel their football game because multiple student athletes tested positive for COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking.
My mind is blown. I can't believe that this happened. And it's just, how far does this have to go before people actually buy in and accept and understand the consequences of A, not wearing their mask, and B, not social distancing, and C, listening to a fucking shithead president who's lying to you and admitted to lying to you, and yet you still suck his dick.
They're still all in on.
Okay. So let me just talk about something from personal experience. So I'm going to forgive the Notre Dame athletes, and I'll tell you why. So I used to play college ball. I was very good at volleyball, and you have a certain amount of like power and prestige on campus, and like a little like of like clout, and so you kind of like not abuse it, but like you like it, and it's amazing. So they go to campus and they're saying they're about to quarantine, but like no, like there's girls throwing themselves at them, there's parties happening, there is soirees, there's all these things happening. So like they're young kids who every one of us on this podcast felt like we were invincible at some point. So like they feel that same way. I'm forgiving of them. What I'm not forgiving is the system. Like, do we fucking need college football right now? No. We need college education. We need tools, we need skills, we need professionals right now to solve this shit. We don't need to be fucking entertained. We're fine. Netflix is up and running, folks. I'm sure you have not maxed it out. Like, that's what
I'm working on it.
Yeah, I'm working on it too.
Me too. I am like, I'm not gonna hate. But I'm saying like we blame them, but no, they're set up to fail. Much like teachers, much like students are, much like, you know, working parents from home are. We're all set up to fail, but yet they blame us. When really the system is so fucked.
So, yesterday, dickhead orange guy said at a rally.
Okay.
He said at a rally in Ohio that it affects elderly people with heart problems and other problems. If they have other problems, that really is what it affects. That's it. He also claims that young people are virtually immune, and we should be taking our hat off to young people because they have a hell of an immune system. And then he paused, and it says, it affects virtually nobody. What?
200,000 have died.
Well, first of all,
that
it's only the ones with the good genes that are immune.
Yes.
White genes.
You know, that's issue number one. But once again, just like with everything else, he's just spitting out a bunch of bullshit that has already been proven wrong.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Wrong. Just not even like iffy, not questionable. It's wrong. It is not fact. It has been proven to be not factual.
But 100% of the people that were at his Ohio rally on Monday will run with that and tell you exactly what he said as it is complete factual truth.
Because they're all fucked up. They're all fucked up. That's the only way to... Because look, he goes out there repeating all kinds of shit that is not true. Joe Biden does not want to defund the police. That is factually incorrect. He has spoken out against it. You know, COVID affects all kinds of people, and you even hear him on the Woodward tapes.
Yep.
You hear him talking about how it's bad, and then you also hear him talking about how it's starting to affect young people.
He just is the consummate person creating that disillusion where he's just providing you information in multiple ways, in multiple directions, and causing cognitive dissonance. And these people just can't pull themselves out of it. And the rest of us looking in are like, whoa, what the fuck? Because honestly, if Obama was saying these things, I would feel the exact same way. If Clinton was saying these things, I would feel the exact same way.
Because they're not facts.
Right. This has nothing to do with it being just that it's Trump. It's that he's a fucking liar.
Well, the anger comes from the fact that over and over and over, he just keeps saying things that are just either false, flat out false, or that contradict things that he himself had said previously.
So, to kind of wrap this whole conversation up, coming up in the next week or two, we're going to have the first Trump-Biden debate. And they say it's going to focus on the Supreme Court, coronavirus, and race relationships. I have gone on record multiple times stating my disillusionment with Joe Biden. I'm going to double down here and say I don't even care that I don't like him as the other option. I don't like him. Whatever. Plug your nose. Go vote for him. Because we cannot survive another 4 years of Trump. It is impossible.
Fact.
Agreed.
And if you give him another 4 years, he is going to spend 4 years trying to get another 4 years and another 4 years after that. And you are going to see the end of our actual democracy if you allow him to stay.
You're going to see the end of a lot of things. Because given another 4 years, look at how much he's divided people by race and by
class,
economic class.
Absolutely.
And think about another 4 years, we will literally be a third world country. Because look at what he's doing with New York right now. We're an anarchist.
You're an anarchist.
Area. Which, I don't know. I look out my window. I don't see any anarchy.
There's definitely no anarchy there.
You would think from the way he's talking that the whole fucking city's on fire.
It's like Gotham.
There's nothing. Yeah, there's protests. And maybe like the first couple of days there was looting and shit. And yeah, crime is up in general. But there's a lot of discussion as to whether that's a slowdown from the police because of all the defund shit going on. It's up for debate. I can't vouch for it one way or the other, but it is discussed a lot. But the fact is, other than crime being up, the place is not on fire. Protesters aren't lighting up Fifth Avenue. It's not. Stop watching Fox News. Stop listening to this orange fuck. New York, there's no anarchy going on in New York.
None.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here in my back room in the Bronx right now, and I can tell you there's nothing going on over here.
There's a 3-block square radius in Seattle where there might be some semblance of anarchy. It's a little red blip in that entire city, and that's about the end of anarchy in all of the U.S. It's just made up to create fear so that people will just turn out and vote for him.
Right.
It's so bad. Let me just finish real quick. It is so bad that it's exposing the don't tread on me snake waving flag guys, the Gadsden flag guys, as Blue Lives Matter guys. I mean, they're out there on the wrong side of what they actually say they stand for.
Well,
they might as well just be the guy driving around with the Punisher symbol with the Blue Lives Matter on the Punisher symbol. I mean, they might as well have that instead of the damn don't tread on me flag, because all of them are like, please tread on me as long as I'm safe.
Right. Well, what I was going to say was the closest thing you get to anarchy, and what they refer to as anarchy, is counter protesters at a fucking Blue Lives Matter rally.
Yep, that's
which has
pretty much
happened. You know, there was one a couple of months, a few blocks from me, where that ended up being a mess, and it's happened in a few different places in the city. But that's it. And even then, it wasn't anarchy. Like a bunch of people yelling "fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." That's not anarchy.
Not at all.
That's me in daily life. So I guess I'm an anarchist now.
I've been one my whole life.
Yeah. So, especially, I guess you're really an anarchist if you're like, fuck Trump, fuck Trump, fuck Trump. You know? But, oh my God. It's just, the guy is so full of shit. And all this stuff that he's talking about, it's just not reality.
At all.
It's not.
Zero. Oh, man.
It's just so bad. And yeah, that's why people are angry about it, because people are sick of this shit. But we're the ones that get the most pissed off, because we're the ones with some fucking common sense.
I think common sense is lacking in general.
But, oh, you're falling for the liberal agenda. Eat my fucking ass. Fuck you. Because I'm not falling for a guy who's contradicting himself and telling things that are blatantly proven untrue with a
over
2-second
and over
Google search.
and over again.
Over and over again.
Yeah.
But I'm falling for the liberal agenda. Fuck off. I'm not a fucking liberal. I'm not a fucking progressive. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat or any of that shit. I'm just sick of bullshit.
100%. Well, this has been a good conversation.
So much easier on my heart when we were talking about 80s movies. God damn it.
Fair enough.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to Emily for joining the podcast today.
Yes, thank you. It was very entertaining.
Oh, well, thank you guys. And thank you guys for having me. I'm always happy to drunk talk with anybody. So there's
If you come back on, you have to be just as drunk, because that's the whole key now, is that if you're appearing, you're drunk.
Are you really trying to give me a challenge? Because that's not it.
Are we putting that in the title of the episode?
All right, I'm so in. Let's go.
Episode's just going to be called She's Drunk.
Yep, I'm in. Game on.
And by the way, just to go back once again, American Werewolf in London.
Oh,
it's a good movie. Lost Boys.
Lost Boys, good. Phantasm was 79.
I spit on your grave.
That was 70s.
That was definitely 70s.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Okay, fair enough. Videodrome, though.
First Hellraiser movie.
Ooh, very good.
War Games.
War Games, classic.
Classic.
Great movie.
Oh, that messes with my head so much. All right. Good night, guys. Have a good one. Thank you for having me on.
All right. We're done. That has been another episode of The Upgrade. I am Gary Muttley. He is
Len Carmichael.
theupgradepodcast.net for links and all that stuff. And we will speak to you guys again soon. Thanks for listening.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.